Hello there, and welcome back to Science to Fall Asleep. Tonight, let yourself drift quietly into a world filled with delicate wings, hidden colors, ancient instincts, and tiny journeys that often go unnoticed beneath the ordinary rhythm of the day. Imagine a warm evening somewhere in a quiet meadow. The sunlight is beginning to fade. The grass moves gently in the breeze, and tiny flowers sway from side to side as the temperature slowly falls. Somewhere nearby, a small butterfly rests beneath a leaf, its wings folded together, almost invisible against the surrounding vegetation. It has spent the day moving through a world that is enormous compared with its own body. It has searched for flowers. It has followed scents carried through the air. It has avoided predators. It has absorbed sunlight. And now, as darkness approaches, it simply becomes still. There is something almost mysterious about butterflies. We tend to notice them for only a few seconds. A flash of orange above a garden. A yellow shape drifting across a road. A blue shimmer disappearing between flowers. Perhaps one lands briefly on a hand before lifting away again. But behind those quiet moments is an extraordinary story. A butterfly begins its life looking nothing like a butterfly. It emerges from an egg as a tiny caterpillar, a creature whose entire purpose seems to be eating and growing. It spends days or weeks consuming leaves, increasing its body size again and again. Then something remarkable happens. The caterpillar stops. It finds a suitable place. It attaches itself, and inside a protective structure, its body begins an astonishing transformation. The creature that eventually emerges has wings. It has completely different proportions. It has different feeding equipment. It has a different way of moving through the world. And in a sense, it has become a completely different animal while still carrying the same genetic story within its cells. This transformation is one of the most beautiful examples of change in nature. And tonight, we are going to spend a long, peaceful journey exploring the world of butterflies. There are butterflies living on tropical islands, in deserts, mountains, forests, grasslands, wetlands, cities, gardens, and even places where snow remains on the ground for much of the year. Some are enormous. Others are so small that they could disappear against a single flower petal. Some travel hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. Some spend almost their entire lives within an area no larger than a small garden. Some are brightly colored. Others are deliberately dull. Some taste terrible to predators. Some pretend to taste terrible. And some have evolved patterns that imitate eyes, leaves, bark, or other creatures. Their wings can appear blue without containing blue pigment. Their colors can change depending on the angle from which you look. Their scales can scatter light in extraordinary ways. And their relationship with flowers has helped shape some of the ecosystems around us. So, as you settle down, perhaps letting your breathing become slower and softer, imagine yourself walking quietly through an endless meadow at dusk. There is no need to go anywhere. There is nothing you need to accomplish. Just listen, and somewhere among the flowers, a butterfly is resting. Its wings are closed. Its body is still. And beneath those delicate wings is a world of remarkable science. Butterflies belong to the insect order Lepidoptera, a name that comes from ancient Greek words associated with scales and wings. That name is wonderfully appropriate because the surface of a butterfly's wing is not smooth in the way it might appear from a distance. Instead, it is covered with thousands upon thousands of microscopic scales. Each scale is tiny, so tiny that you would need magnification to appreciate its structure properly. When sunlight touches a butterfly wing, these scales interact with the light. Some contain pigments. Others have microscopic structures that manipulate light itself. This is one reason butterflies can produce colors that seem almost impossible. A bright red butterfly may owe much of its appearance to pigment, but a shimmering blue butterfly can produce its color through microscopic structures that scatter and reflect particular wavelengths of light. This phenomenon is known as structural coloration, and it means that sometimes, when you look at a butterfly, you are not simply seeing a colored surface. You are seeing light being carefully manipulated by an arrangement of microscopic structures. The effect can be breathtaking. A butterfly may appear blue from one direction and darker from another. Its wings can flash as it moves. A slight change in angle can make an intense color seem to disappear. This is particularly noticeable in some tropical butterflies whose wings seem to glow when sunlight strikes them at just the right angle. The scales themselves are remarkably delicate. They overlap like tiny roof tiles. If you gently touch the wing of a butterfly, some scales may come loose. This is one reason butterflies should be handled with great care. The scales are part of the natural surface of the wing, and losing some is generally not immediately fatal, but unnecessary disturbance can damage the insect. Those scales also contribute to the way the wing looks from a distance. When millions of microscopic surfaces work together, the result becomes something our eyes perceive as a single smooth color. It is easy to forget how much complexity can be hidden inside something that appears so simple. A butterfly wing can look like a painted canvas, but unlike a painting, its patterns are produced biologically. The colors and markings develop according to genetic instructions, environmental conditions, and the chemistry of the developing insect. Some patterns are used to attract mates. Others help butterflies communicate. Some warn predators. Some make the butterfly difficult to see. And some may confuse predators by creating the illusion that the insect has more than one head. The familiar eye spots found on the wings of many butterflies are particularly fascinating. To a human observer, they can look like large eyes staring from the wings. For a predator, the effect may be very different. A bird searching for a small butterfly might suddenly encounter a pattern that resembles the face of a much larger animal. The bird may hesitate. That hesitation can be enough. In nature, survival does not always require defeating a predator. Sometimes survival simply means creating a moment of uncertainty, and a moment can be everything. Butterflies themselves are surprisingly vulnerable creatures. Their bodies are small. Their wings are fragile. Their movements are often slow compared with those of birds. They cannot fight most predators physically. Instead, they rely on a remarkable collection of strategies. Camouflage is one. Warning coloration is another. Speed is another. Some species fly in irregular patterns that make them difficult to capture. Others disappear among leaves. Some rest with their wings closed, revealing patterns that resemble the environment around them. A butterfly sitting quietly on a tree may be much harder to notice than one flying across an open field. This is one of the quiet rules of nature. Movement attracts attention. Stillness can become a form of invisibility. And butterflies have evolved many ways of becoming still. At night, many species choose sheltered locations. They may hang beneath leaves. They may rest in grasses. They may settle among branches. They may position themselves where wind and rain are less likely to disturb them. When the temperature drops, their activity also slows. Butterflies are ectothermic animals. They do not generate enough internal heat through metabolism to maintain a constant body temperature in the way mammals do. Instead, Their activity is strongly influenced by the environment. Sunlight becomes a source of warmth. A cool morning can leave a butterfly motionless. Then the sun rises. The wings open. The insect may position itself so that sunlight reaches its body. Gradually, its muscles warm. Movement becomes easier. And eventually, it can lift into the air. This is why you may sometimes see butterflies basking with their wings spread wide in the early morning. They are not simply enjoying the sunshine. They are warming themselves. For a butterfly, sunlight can be almost like fuel. The warmth allows its flight muscles to work more effectively. Some butterflies even adjust the angle of their bodies to absorb more solar energy. A dark-colored wing can absorb sunlight efficiently. A butterfly resting on a warm surface may also gain heat from the surface itself. A stone warmed by the morning sun can become a temporary heating platform. A wooden fence can serve the same purpose. So can a patch of bare soil. The butterfly simply waits. There is no hurry. The sun rises. The body warms. And eventually, the wings begin moving. This relationship with temperature helps explain why butterflies are often more visible during warm, sunny parts of the day. Cloudy, cold, windy conditions can make flight much more difficult. Rain is particularly challenging. Butterfly wings are lightweight structures, and heavy droplets can interfere with flight. Wind can also make navigation difficult. So butterflies often take shelter during bad weather. A quiet leaf beneath a larger canopy may become a temporary refuge. And while the storm passes above, the butterfly waits. This patience is part of the rhythm of insect life. The world around us may feel fast when viewed from a human perspective. Cars move, people walk, clouds cross the sky. But a butterfly experiences its environment differently. A few minutes of sunshine can determine whether it can fly. A change in temperature can change its behavior. A flower opening at the right moment can provide essential energy. A sudden shadow can signal danger. Everything is connected to the immediate environment. And perhaps this is one reason butterflies can make such peaceful subjects for contemplation. Their lives are small in scale, but they are intensely connected to the world around them. Every leaf matters. Every flower matters. Every patch of sunlight matters. Every sheltered place matters. And every season brings a different chapter. The butterfly life cycle begins much earlier than the moment when we first notice wings. It begins with an egg. Female butterflies usually place their eggs carefully, often selecting particular plants. This choice can be extremely important. The tiny caterpillar that emerges will need food, and many butterfly caterpillars are highly specialized. A female may search for a particular plant species because her offspring depend upon it. This means a butterfly is not simply searching for somewhere to lay an egg. It is searching for the beginning of an entire life. Imagine a tiny egg resting on the surface of a leaf. It may be almost invisible. It may be round, oval, ridged, smooth, pale, green, yellow, white, or dark. Different species produce different shapes and colors. Some eggs are placed individually. Others appear in groups. The mother butterfly may use chemical cues from the plant to determine whether it is suitable. She may also inspect the leaf with her legs and antennae. To us, the process might look almost casual. A butterfly lands. It walks a short distance. It pauses. It touches the plant. Then it moves again. But beneath this simple behavior is an elaborate biological decision. The butterfly is evaluating its environment. It is searching for the right host plant. And once the egg is placed, a completely different stage of life begins. The caterpillar that emerges is sometimes called a larva. It looks nothing like the adult butterfly. Instead of wings, it has a soft, elongated body. Instead of sipping nectar, it often spends much of its time eating leaves. And it can grow extraordinarily quickly. This is one of the most important stages of the butterfly's existence. The caterpillar must gather energy. It is essentially building the resources required for the transformation that will come later. A tiny caterpillar can eventually become many times larger than the organism that emerged from the egg. Its body stretches. Its tissues develop. Its internal systems prepare for the next stage. But the caterpillar cannot simply keep growing without limits. Its outer covering, known as the exoskeleton, does not expand like human skin, so the caterpillar must shed it. This process is called molting. A caterpillar may molt several times during its development. Each time, it emerges larger. The old skin is left behind. The new body beneath it is softer at first. For a short period, the caterpillar may be especially vulnerable. Then the new outer layer becomes more developed, and the process repeats. Eat, grow, molt, eat, grow, molt. Eventually, the caterpillar reaches a stage where something inside its body tells it that the time for feeding is coming to an end. Its behavior changes. It may stop eating. It may search for a protected location. It may wander farther than usual. Then it attaches itself, and the transformation begins. The stage that follows is called the pupa. In butterflies, this structure is often called a chrysalis. The chrysalis can look strangely simple. It may hang beneath a leaf. It may attach to a stem. It may be green, brown, golden, or another color that helps it blend into its surroundings. From the outside, it may appear completely still, but inside, extraordinary biological activity is taking place. The caterpillar's body is being reorganized. This is not simply a matter of growing wings onto the same body. Many tissues are broken down and rebuilt. Groups of specialized cells develop into structures that will belong to the adult insect. The transformation is so dramatic that it can feel almost impossible. A crawling caterpillar becomes a flying butterfly. The two forms share the same genetic identity, but their bodies are adapted to completely different ways of life. The caterpillar is built primarily for feeding and growth. The adult butterfly is built for movement, reproduction, finding mates, locating food, and interacting with the environment. One body is designed for leaves. The other is designed for flowers and air. And yet both are stages of the same life. When the butterfly finally emerges from the chrysalis, its wings are not immediately ready for flight. They are soft and folded. The insect must carefully expand them. Fluid is pumped through the wing veins, helping the wings unfold and take shape. The butterfly then waits. The wings gradually strengthen. Eventually, they become capable of flight. This first flight can be one of the most delicate moments in the insect's life. There is no dramatic announcement, no sound that tells the world a transformation has occurred. The butterfly simply climbs upward. It opens its wings, and for the first time, it enters the air. A creature that previously moved across leaves can now travel through an entirely different dimension. The world has become three-dimensional. The butterfly can rise above flowers. It can cross streams. It can move between trees. It can follow wind currents. It can search for distant plants. And in some species, it can travel astonishing distances. One of the most famous examples is the monarch butterfly. Monarchs are known for their remarkable migrations across North America. Some populations travel between northern breeding grounds and overwintering areas much farther south. The journey can span thousands of kilometers. What makes this even more remarkable is that the individuals that begin one stage of the journey may not be the same individuals that complete the entire annual cycle. Different generations can participate in different portions of the migration. This means the information required to navigate is somehow carried through generations. The butterflies respond to environmental cues. They use the position of the sun. They possess biological mechanisms that help compensate for the movement of the sun across the sky. They can also use internal timing systems. The result is a navigation ability that seems extraordinary when viewed from our perspective. A tiny insect crosses vast landscapes. It does not have a map. It does not have a road. It does not have a human-made compass. And yet it can participate in a seasonal movement that has repeated across generations. The migration is also connected to temperature. Monarchs depend on suitable environmental conditions for feeding, reproduction, and survival. Their journey is therefore not simply a straight line from one place to another. It is part of a larger seasonal rhythm. The changing length of daylight, temperature, plant availability, wind, rain, all can influence movement. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this story is that the butterfly does not need to understand the journey in the human sense. There is no conscious map in its mind showing every mountain and river. Instead, evolution has shaped a collection of biological responses that guide behavior. A butterfly follows signals. It responds to light. It responds to temperature. It responds to scents. It responds to plants. And these simple responses, combined across generations, can produce astonishing journeys. The monarch is not the only butterfly capable of long-distance movement. Other species also travel significant distances. Some cross regions in response to changing seasons. Others move toward areas where food becomes available. Some species disperse to establish new populations. Butterflies may also be carried by wind. A tiny insect does not always control its movement completely. Air currents can become part of its journey. Sometimes a butterfly may travel farther than it could through active flight alone. This is another reminder that animals are not isolated from their environment. The atmosphere itself becomes part of their movement. Wind becomes a transportation system. Sunlight becomes a heating system. Plants become food and shelter. Flowers become energy stations. And predators become constant environmental pressures. The butterfly exists within a web of relationships. One of the most important relationships is with flowering plants. Butterflies are famous for drinking nectar. Their feeding structure is called a proboscis. It is a long, tube-like structure that can be uncoiled when the butterfly feeds. When not in use, it is often curled beneath the head. Imagine carrying a flexible drinking straw that could be rolled up when you were finished using it. That is somewhat similar to the basic idea behind the butterfly proboscis. When a butterfly lands on a flower, it can extend the proboscis and reach into areas where nectar is stored. Different flowers have different shapes. Some place nectar deep inside the flower. The long proboscis allows butterflies to reach it. In doing so, the butterfly may also pick up pollen. When it moves to another flower, some pollen may be transferred. This makes butterflies important pollinators. They are not as specialized for pollination as some bees, but their movements between flowers can contribute to plant reproduction. A butterfly may visit many flowers during a single day. Each visit is a tiny interaction, but millions of such interactions across ecosystems can have significant ecological effects. The relationship is almost like a quiet exchange. The flower provides food. The butterfly carries pollen. The plant benefits from reproduction. The butterfly receives energy. Neither side needs to understand the relationship. Evolution has shaped it over immense periods of time. And now, across meadows, gardens, forests, and fields, this ancient interaction continues. The flowers open. The butterflies arrive. The nectar is collected. The pollen moves. And life continues. Butterflies do not all feed in exactly the same way. Adult butterflies are primarily known for nectar, but some species seek other sources of nutrients. They may gather around damp soil, mud, sand, or shallow puddles. This behavior is called puddling. A group of butterflies may gather together on wet ground, especially in warm conditions. At first glance, it can look as though they are simply drinking water. But there is more happening. The insects may be obtaining dissolved minerals and salts from the soil. These nutrients can be difficult to acquire from nectar alone. Male butterflies in particular are often observed puddling. The minerals they collect may contribute to reproduction. In some species, nutrients acquired by males can potentially be transferred to females during mating. So a muddy patch beside a trail can become an important resource. Something that looks ordinary to us may be a nutritional gathering place for butterflies. This is one reason it is useful to slow down when observing nature. The most interesting events are not always the dramatic ones. Sometimes they are hidden in plain sight. A butterfly sitting on wet soil, a caterpillar disappearing beneath a leaf, an egg no larger than a grain of sand, a chrysalis hanging quietly from a branch, a flower visited for only a few seconds. Each represents a different chapter in the life of an insect, and each chapter is connected to the others. The butterfly that drinks nectar today once depended on a leaf as a caterpillar. The flower it visits may have been pollinated by another insect. The tree where it rests may provide shelter from rain. The bird that searches for it may help control butterfly populations. Even a small meadow can contain an enormous network of interactions. Butterflies are therefore more than beautiful insects. They are participants in ecosystems. Their presence can also tell scientists something about environmental conditions. Because many butterfly species depend on particular plants, temperatures, habitats, and seasonal patterns, changes in butterfly populations can sometimes reveal changes in ecosystems. A decline in butterflies may indicate habitat loss. It may reflect changes in plant communities. It can also be associated with pesticides, climate shifts, invasive species, disease, or other environmental pressures. For this reason, butterflies are often studied by scientists and conservationists. They can serve as useful indicators of ecological change. And because people find them visually appealing, butterflies can also inspire public interest in conservation. A person who might never think about ecosystem dynamics may stop to watch a monarch. A child may notice a caterpillar. Someone may plant flowers specifically to attract butterflies. A garden becomes a small habitat, and a small habitat can become part of a much larger network. This is how appreciation for one tiny creature can lead to a deeper understanding of the natural world. Butterflies also remind us that beauty and survival are not always separate concepts. Their colors can be beautiful to us, but those same colors may have evolved for practical reasons. Bright patterns can warn predators. Dark wings can absorb heat. Camouflage can make an insect disappear. Reflective surfaces can influence communication. Eye spots can startle predators. The beauty we see is often the visible result of countless generations of evolutionary pressure. Nature does not design with aesthetics in mind, but beauty can emerge from survival. A pattern that helps an insect survive may also happen to be beautiful. A structure that manipulates light may produce a color that seems almost magical. A shape that confuses predators may look like a piece of artwork. Evolution has no paintbrush, yet it has produced wings that can look painted. There is something deeply calming about that thought. The natural world does not need to create something for our enjoyment. It simply follows the slow process of variation, survival, reproduction, and change. And sometimes the result is a butterfly resting quietly on a flower at sunset. As the evening becomes darker, the butterfly may settle into its resting place. The meadow begins to change. Day-active insects become quiet. Night insects begin to emerge. The temperature drops. The flowers close. And the butterfly remains still. Its brief adult life continues according to a rhythm far older than human civilization. Tomorrow, if the weather is warm enough, it may open its wings again. It may search for nectar. It may search for a mate. It may travel across the meadow. It may encounter another butterfly. It may avoid a bird. It may land on a flower. And eventually, its own life will come to an end. For many butterflies, adulthood is relatively short. Some live for only a few days or weeks. Others can survive for several months, particularly species or seasonal forms adapted for longer life. The lifespan varies enormously, but regardless of the exact duration, the adult butterfly exists for a purpose within its life cycle. It must reproduce. The next generation begins. Eggs are placed on plants. Caterpillars emerge. They eat. They grow. They molt. They form chrysalises. New butterflies emerge. And the cycle begins again. The individual is temporary. The life cycle continues. This is one of the quiet patterns repeated throughout nature. A single butterfly may live only briefly, but butterflies as a group have existed for tens of millions of years. Their ancestors lived long before humans. They were flying among ancient plants. They evolved alongside changing landscapes. They survived climatic shifts. They adapted to new environments. And today, their descendants still move through gardens and forests around the world. When you watch a butterfly today, you are witnessing the continuation of a very old evolutionary story. A story that began long before roads, cities, airplanes, or even humans. A story written not in books, but in genes. Not in words, but in wings. Not in maps, but in instincts. And perhaps that is the most peaceful thing about butterflies. They do not need to hurry through the meaning of their existence. They simply live according to the rhythm that evolution has given them. A caterpillar eats. A chrysalis waits. A butterfly flies. A flower opens. The sun rises. The sun sets. And the cycle continues. So, as you imagine that quiet meadow once more, perhaps the sky is now dark. The last traces of daylight have disappeared. The flowers are silhouettes. The grass is moving gently beneath the night breeze. And somewhere beneath a leaf, a butterfly is sleeping. Its wings are folded. Its body is resting. Nothing dramatic is happening. And yet, inside that tiny creature is an astonishing history of adaptation. Millions of years of evolution have produced its wings, its colors, its senses, its feeding structures, its instincts, its ability to find plants, its ability to avoid danger, its ability to reproduce. Everything that seems delicate and simple has been shaped by an ancient process. And tomorrow, when the sun returns, the butterfly will begin again. The wings will warm. The meadow will brighten. The flowers will open. And another quiet day in the life of a butterfly will begin. For now, though, there is nowhere to go. The meadow can remain still. The butterfly can rest. And you can simply drift deeper into the quiet world of science. The night settles more deeply over the meadow. For a while, almost nothing moves. The butterfly beneath the leaf remains hidden, its wings folded carefully against its body. The darkness offers protection, but it also changes the entire environment around it. During daylight, a butterfly depends heavily on warmth and vision. At night, those advantages become less useful, and remaining still becomes one of the simplest forms of protection. Morning will eventually return, but before it does, there is another part of the butterfly story worth quietly exploring. The world of butterflies is filled with senses that are very different from our own. A butterfly does not experience a flower in exactly the way a human does. When we look at a flower, we may notice its color, shape, fragrance, and beauty. A butterfly encounters something more like a collection of signals. Color can suggest the presence of food. Shape can indicate whether nectar may be accessible. Scent can provide chemical information. Temperature can reveal whether flight is possible. And even the surface beneath its feet can provide information. Butterflies have sensory structures on their bodies that allow them to detect their surroundings in remarkable ways. Their antennae are especially important. You can think of the antennae as sensitive instruments extending from the head. They help butterflies detect odors and chemical signals in the environment. They also contribute to orientation and sensory processing. The tips of many butterfly antennae are club-shaped, which is one of the features that helps distinguish butterflies from many moths. Antennae are easy to overlook because they are so small. But for a butterfly, the world is filled with chemical information. A flower is not simply a colored object. It is also a source of scent. Another butterfly is not simply a shape moving through the air. It may release chemical signals. A suitable host plant may have a particular chemical profile. The butterfly's sensory systems help turn those invisible signals into useful information. This becomes especially important when females search for plants on which to lay their eggs. The choice of plant can determine whether the offspring will survive. A caterpillar cannot simply eat whatever happens to be nearby. Many species have specific dietary requirements. So the female's ability to recognize suitable plants is extremely important. In some butterflies, the legs themselves play an important role in detecting chemicals. This is a fascinating detail because it means that when a butterfly lands on a plant, it is not merely standing there. It may be tasting the surface. Chemical receptors on the legs can help the butterfly determine whether the plant is appropriate. Imagine landing on a leaf and being able to gather chemical information simply through contact. For a butterfly, a leaf can effectively become a sensory surface. The female may walk across it. She may touch it. She may pause. Then, if the chemical signals are appropriate, she may deposit an egg. It is an extraordinarily precise process for such a small animal, and it illustrates something important about insects. Their bodies may be tiny, but their sensory abilities can be highly specialized. Butterfly vision is also fascinating. Their compound eyes contain many tiny visual units called ommatidia. Instead of receiving an image through a single lens like a human eye, the butterfly's compound eye gathers information through numerous small optical elements. The resulting visual system is adapted to the needs of an insect. Butterflies can detect movement. They can perceive colors. They can use visual patterns to locate flowers and recognize other butterflies. Some species can perceive wavelengths of light that humans cannot see. Ultraviolet light is particularly interesting. To human eyes, A flower may appear to have one uniform color. To a butterfly, it may contain additional patterns created by ultraviolet reflectance. These patterns can act like guides. They may help direct an insect toward the nectar-producing part of a flower. So a flower that looks simple to us may actually contain a hidden visual map. The petals may appear plain, but under ultraviolet light, they can reveal contrasting regions. A butterfly equipped to detect that light can perceive information that remains invisible to us. This is one of those quiet reminders that every animal lives in its own sensory universe. There is no single universal experience of the world. Humans see one version, birds see another, bees see another, butterflies see another, and each version is shaped by evolution. A butterfly moving through a garden is therefore not simply flying through the same landscape we see. It is moving through a landscape of colors, ultraviolet signals, chemical traces, temperatures, air currents, and movement. The garden is much more complicated than it appears. Even the sun can provide information. Butterflies can use sunlight for warmth, but some species also use the position of the sun as part of their navigation. This is particularly important for butterflies that travel long distances. The sun moves across the sky throughout the day, so simply heading toward it would not always provide reliable direction. Instead, butterflies possess biological mechanisms that allow them to compensate for the sun's movement. Their internal clocks help interpret the position of the sun. In other words, a butterfly does not simply respond to where the sun is. Its nervous system can combine the sun's position with internal timing information. This gives the insect a form of time-compensated navigation. It is difficult to appreciate just how remarkable this is when looking at a creature small enough to rest on a fingertip. A tiny brain contains neural systems capable of processing information that helps guide migration. And yet, like much of butterfly biology, this ability is not conscious in the human sense. The butterfly does not need to think through equations. It does not calculate the Earth's rotation. It does not reason about geography. Its nervous system has evolved to respond to environmental signals. The result is behavior that can appear almost magical. There is no magic required. There is simply biology, slowly developed over generations. One generation following another. One migration following another. One successful journey increasing the chances that the same inherited behaviors will continue. And so the information persists. The butterfly does not carry a written map. It carries a biological system. That distinction is important. Nature often produces complex behavior without requiring complex conscious thought. The butterfly follows its instincts. And those instincts can be surprisingly sophisticated. The same is true of courtship. Butterfly mating behavior can involve color, movement, chemical signals, territory, and timing. Males of some species patrol areas where females are likely to appear. Others establish territories. A male may perch on a branch or elevated location and watch for passing females. If another male enters the area, territorial behavior may follow. Sometimes this involves aerial pursuit. Two butterflies may circle each other through the air. They may rise and fall. They may move rapidly and unpredictably. To a human observer, it can look like a playful dance. But these movements are part of competition and reproduction. The male is trying to maintain access to a suitable territory or mate. In other species, courtship can involve more subtle interactions. A male may approach a female and display his wings. Chemical signals can also play a role. Some butterflies produce pheromones that influence reproductive behavior. These chemicals can be extraordinarily potent. A tiny quantity may carry information that another butterfly can detect. The chemistry of attraction is therefore another hidden layer beneath the visible beauty of wings. We see colors. Butterflies may be responding to colors and chemical messages simultaneously. The visual patterns of wings can also vary between males and females. This difference is known as sexual dimorphism. In some species, males and females look remarkably different. The differences may be subtle. In others, they can be dramatic. A male may have brighter colors. A female may be darker. One sex may have specialized wing markings. These differences can arise because males and females experience different evolutionary pressures. A male may benefit from being highly visible to females, but also face greater risk from predators. A female may benefit more from camouflage because she spends time searching for host plants and laying eggs. The result is a compromise shaped over generations. Visibility and invisibility. Attraction and protection. Every pattern represents a balance, and the balance can change from one species to another. Some butterflies have evolved astonishing forms of camouflage. A deadleaf butterfly is an especially famous example. When its wings are closed, the insect can resemble a dry leaf. The wing markings may include veins, spots, irregular edges, and colors that imitate decaying vegetation. If it lands among fallen leaves and becomes still, it can become extremely difficult to notice. This is an elegant example of protective resemblance. The butterfly does not need to disappear completely. It only needs to resemble something that predators are not interested in eating. A bird searching for prey may look directly toward the butterfly and still fail to recognize it. This is because predators are not searching for abstract shapes. They are searching for patterns associated with food. If the pattern instead resembles a leaf, the butterfly may pass unnoticed. Camouflage works partly because the predator's brain is also making decisions. Seeing is not the same as recognizing. A bird can receive light from an object without identifying that object as prey. The butterfly exploits that gap. Other butterflies use a different strategy. Instead of hiding, they advertise. Bright colors can serve as warning signals. A predator that eats a butterfly with an unpleasant taste may learn to avoid similar patterns. This is called aposematic coloration. The colors can be vivid: red, orange, yellow, black. These combinations are common in warning displays throughout the animal kingdom. The message is essentially a visual signal that says the potential meal may not be worth eating. But nature becomes even more interesting when another species copies the warning pattern. This can lead to mimicry. A harmless butterfly may evolve a pattern resembling a distasteful species. If predators have learned to avoid the warning pattern, the harmless species may gain protection. This is known as Batesian mimicry. There are also situations in which multiple unpalatable species resemble one another. This is known as Müllerian mimicry. When several genuinely defended species share similar warning patterns, predators can learn the lesson more quickly. One dangerous encounter can teach the predator to avoid a whole group of similar-looking insects. The result is an evolutionary conversation between predators and prey. A predator learns. Prey evolve. The predator changes its behavior. Prey change their appearance. Generation after generation, the visual language becomes more refined. Butterfly wings therefore contain messages. Some messages are intended for mates. Some are intended for predators. Some may be visible only under certain lighting conditions. Some are messages we cannot even perceive. This makes a butterfly's wing much more than a surface for flight. It is also a communication system. And yet the wings themselves are primarily aerodynamic structures. They must be lightweight. They must be strong enough to survive repeated movement. They must interact with air efficiently. The shape of a butterfly wing varies greatly between species. Some butterflies have broad wings. Others have narrow wings. Some have long tails. Others have rounded edges. These differences affect how they fly. A butterfly with broad wings may have a different flight style from one with narrow wings. Some species flutter rapidly. Others glide. Some alternate between bursts of wing beats and short periods of gliding. Their flight may appear unpredictable. This can make them difficult for predators to capture. A butterfly does not need to fly like a bird. Its smaller body and different wing structure create a completely different style of movement. The wing muscles attach to the thorax, the middle section of the insect's body. Muscular contractions move the wings through the air. The wings themselves are supported by a network of veins. These veins help provide structural support and carry fluids during development. They also contribute to the mechanical strength of the wings. If you look closely at a butterfly wing, you may notice a delicate network of lines. These are not random. They form part of the wing's structural framework. At the microscopic level, the wing is an intricate biological structure. At the macroscopic level, it simply looks like a fragile sheet. That apparent fragility can be misleading. Butterflies must endure wind, sunlight, rain, collisions with plants, and repeated flight. Their wings are delicate, but they are also adapted to their environment. Still, their lives can be surprisingly dangerous. Birds are major predators. Spiders can capture butterflies in webs. Praying mantises may ambush them. Dragonflies can catch smaller insects. Lizards, frogs, and other animals may also feed on butterflies or caterpillars. And perhaps the most vulnerable stage is the caterpillar. A caterpillar is slow. It is often visible on leaves, and it contains valuable nutrients for predators. To survive, caterpillars have developed many defensive strategies. Some resemble twigs. Some resemble bird droppings. Some have false eyes. Some produce chemicals that make them unpleasant. Some hide. Some drop from leaves when disturbed. Others remain motionless. The resemblance to bird droppings may seem strange to us, but from the perspective of a predator, it can be highly effective. A bird looking for caterpillars may be attracted to a green leaf. A white and dark shape that resembles a dropping may not trigger the same feeding response. The caterpillar survives because it is mistaken for something uninteresting. Again, the key is not invisibility. It is misidentification. Nature repeatedly finds ways to manipulate perception, and this happens long before the butterfly ever develops wings. The caterpillar itself can also be surprisingly sophisticated. Some species have structures called osmeteria. These are specialized organs found in certain caterpillars, particularly swallowtail larvae. When threatened, the caterpillar can extend the osmeterium. It may produce chemicals with an unpleasant odor. The sudden appearance of the structure combined with the smell can discourage predators. A caterpillar that appears harmless may suddenly reveal a defensive organ. It is another reminder that insects are not simple creatures. Their bodies contain specialized systems for feeding, sensing, defending, reproducing, and moving. All of these systems operate within a tiny space, and somehow they work together. Perhaps the most familiar part of the caterpillar is its appetite. A caterpillar can consume a remarkable amount of plant material relative to its body size. This is necessary because growth requires energy. The caterpillar is essentially preparing for the future. The adult butterfly may spend much of its time searching for nectar and mates. But the caterpillar stage is where much of the physical growth occurs. Every leaf consumed becomes part of the story. Every mouthful contributes to the tissues that will later be reorganized. And the plant itself becomes an essential part of the butterfly's life cycle. This is why habitat loss can affect butterflies so strongly. If a particular host plant disappears, the butterfly may lose the ability to reproduce successfully in that area. A field can still appear green. Trees can still be present. Flowers can still bloom. Yet if the specific plants required by caterpillars are gone, the butterfly population may decline. This is why butterfly conservation is often about protecting entire plant communities rather than simply protecting the adult insects. A butterfly garden, therefore, needs more than nectar flowers. If you want to support the full life cycle of butterflies, host plants for caterpillars are also important. The flowers feed adults. The leaves feed larvae. Sheltered vegetation provides resting places. The soil can provide minerals, and natural habitat can provide protection. A healthy butterfly habitat is therefore a small ecosystem. It contains many different resources, and perhaps this is why a wild meadow can be more valuable than a perfectly manicured lawn. A lawn may look neat, but a meadow can contain dozens or hundreds of plant species. Each plant can support different insects. Those insects support birds. Birds support predators. The entire system becomes connected. Butterflies are one visible part of that system. When they appear, they are often signaling that other pieces of the ecosystem are present as well. The sight of a butterfly, therefore, represents more than beauty. It can represent habitat. It can represent flowering plants. It can represent seasonal timing. It can represent the presence of a functioning food web. And sometimes, simply watching one butterfly can encourage us to notice everything else around it. The flower beneath its feet, the leaf above it, the spider web nearby, the bird in the distance, the wind moving through the grass, the sunlight warming the ground. The butterfly becomes a doorway into the ecosystem. And if we remain still long enough, the ecosystem begins to reveal itself. The meadow is never actually quiet. Even when we cannot hear anything, countless processes are taking place. Plants are exchanging gases. Roots are interacting with soil organisms. Insects are moving through leaves. Microorganisms are breaking down organic material. Predators are searching. Pollinators are feeding. And butterflies are participating in this enormous network. Their lives may seem delicate, but collectively, insects are among the most important groups of animals on Earth. Butterflies are only one branch of that immense diversity. There are thousands of butterfly species known to science. They occur on nearly every continent except Antarctica. Their greatest diversity is found in tropical regions. Warm climates with abundant vegetation create opportunities for enormous numbers of insect species. Tropical forests can contain extraordinary butterfly diversity. A single area may host species with completely different shapes, colors, behaviors, and host plants. Some may live high in the forest canopy. Others remain close to the ground. Some specialize in particular plants. Others are more generalist. Some are active during bright daylight. Others prefer dimmer conditions. And even within a single forest, different butterflies can occupy different ecological niches. This reduces competition. Two species may both feed on flowers, but prefer different flowers. Two caterpillars may eat leaves, but depend on different plants. One species may fly high above the canopy. Another may remain beneath it. The forest becomes a layered world, and butterflies move through those layers. Imagine looking upward into a tropical canopy. Leaves form a vast green ceiling. Sunlight filters, through gaps. Somewhere above, a butterfly may be gliding between branches. Below, another species may be searching among low-growing plants. From the ground, we may never notice the insects above us. Yet the forest is filled with them. Some butterflies are attracted to rotting fruit. Others may feed on tree sap or animal fluids. Some species have surprisingly unusual diets as adults. A butterfly may occasionally land on carrion, dung, or other nutrient-rich material. This may seem strange compared with the familiar image of a butterfly drinking nectar. But nectar is not always sufficient to provide every nutrient an insect needs. Minerals, salts, amino acids, and other compounds can come from unusual sources. Nature is full of such compromises. An animal that appears specialized may still have a flexible feeding strategy, and this flexibility can help it survive in changing environments. Some butterflies also have fascinating relationships with ants. Certain caterpillars produce chemicals or sounds that influence ants. The ants may protect the caterpillar from predators. In return, the caterpillar can provide sugary secretions or other rewards. This relationship is known as mutualism in cases where both partners benefit. The details vary among species. Some caterpillars are even carried into ant nests. There, they can receive protection while being tended by ants. It is a remarkable example of cooperation between animals that belong to completely different groups. A caterpillar that looks vulnerable on a leaf may have another strategy hidden beneath the surface. Instead of fighting predators itself, it may recruit an army. The ants do the defending. The caterpillar provides a reward. Both sides gain something. Again, the tiny insect world reveals an unexpected complexity. If we slow down and look closely, almost every familiar creature contains more biology than we first imagined. Butterflies are particularly good at hiding this complexity behind beauty. We see wings, but behind those wings is a nervous system, a circulatory system, respiratory structures, muscles, digestive organs, reproductive organs, sensory systems, chemical defenses, behavioral instincts, and a genetic program capable of transforming one body form into another. Even breathing in a butterfly is very different from breathing in a human. Butterflies do not have lungs like ours. Instead, insects use a system of tubes called tracheae. Air enters through small openings called spiracles along the body. From there, a network of tubes distributes oxygen directly toward tissues. The system is remarkably efficient for a small organism. Instead of transporting oxygen primarily through blood as mammals do, insects bring air through an internal tube network. The oxygen can reach tissues directly. The body is therefore organized around a completely different respiratory design. This is another example of how evolution can solve the same biological problem in different ways. Humans need oxygen. Butterflies need oxygen. But our bodies have evolved different systems for obtaining it. The butterfly's small size is important here. As animals become larger, transporting gases through tiny tubes becomes more challenging. The insect respiratory system works particularly well at small scales. The butterfly therefore inhabits a physical world where its body size shapes what is possible. Its wings are lightweight. Its muscles are small. Its breathing system is built around diffusion and air tubes. Its nervous system processes information within a tiny body. And yet the result is a creature capable of long-distance movement and remarkably complex behavior. Even the butterfly's blood, called hemolymph, is different from human blood. It does not primarily carry oxygen. Instead, oxygen is delivered through the tracheal system. The hemolymph circulates nutrients, hormones, and other substances. A tubular heart helps move it through the body. The anatomy of a butterfly may look simple from the outside, but inside, it is a carefully organized machine. Not a machine built by engineers. A biological machine shaped by evolution. And evolution works slowly, one generation at a time. Tiny variations occur. Some become useful, others disappear. Environmental conditions change. Predators change. Plants change. Climate changes. Species adapt or decline. Over immense spans of time, the result can be extraordinary diversity. The butterflies we see today are therefore the products of an ancient experiment that has never stopped running. Every species is a branch of a much larger evolutionary tree. Some branches are closely related. Others are separated by enormous amounts of evolutionary history. Their similarities reveal shared ancestry. Their differences reveal adaptation. The basic butterfly body plan is recognizable. Head, thorax, abdomen, 6 legs, 2 pairs of wings, a proboscis, antennae, compound eyes. Yet within that general design is enormous variation. This is one of the great themes of biology. A common body plan can produce extraordinary diversity. The same basic ingredients can be rearranged. Different wing shapes, different colors, different feeding habits, different host plants, different behaviors, different habitats, and still, all of them remain butterflies. As the night deepens, perhaps the meadow is now completely dark. The butterfly beneath the leaf is still there. It has no need to move. The cool air surrounds it. The plants sway gently, and somewhere nearby, another creature begins its nighttime activity. A moth may pass through the darkness. A bat may cross the sky. A spider may wait patiently in its web. The daytime world has handed the forest over to the night, and eventually, the cycle will reverse. The first light will appear. The temperature will rise. The butterfly will slowly become active again. The wings will open. The body will warm. And once the sun is high enough, the butterfly will return to the flowers. Another day will begin. Another quiet chapter. Another journey through a world that seems ordinary until we look closely. And perhaps that is where we can leave the butterfly for a moment, resting quietly, waiting for morning. Because even a creature that lives only briefly participates in something much larger than itself. Its life connects plants, predators, seasons, climate, soil, sunlight, and other insects. Its wings carry more than its body. They carry the visible result of countless generations of evolution. And tomorrow, when those wings open again, they will continue a story that began long before we were here. A story written slowly, patiently, one generation at a time. And for now, in the quiet darkness, the butterfly simply rests. Morning arrives almost unnoticed. At first, there is only a faint change in the darkness. The blackness above the meadow slowly becomes softer, turning into shades of deep blue and gray. The outlines of grasses begin to appear. Leaves become visible again. A thin layer of moisture rests across the vegetation, catching the earliest light. The butterfly is still where it was during the night. Its wings remain closed. Its body has cooled with the surrounding air. For now, flight is impossible, but the sun is coming. And sunlight changes everything. A few rays eventually reach the meadow. They touch the tops of the grasses first, then the leaves, then the flowers, and somewhere beneath a leaf, warmth begins to reach the resting butterfly. It may slowly adjust its position. Perhaps the wings open slightly. Perhaps the body turns toward the light. There is no rush. The insect is simply responding to its environment. This simple act of warming is one of the most important parts of a butterfly's morning. Because butterflies are ectothermic, their body temperature is strongly influenced by the environment. Before their muscles can operate efficiently, they often need to warm themselves. This is why butterflies are frequently seen basking in the early hours. A butterfly may sit with its wings spread wide, presenting a large surface to the sun. Some species orient themselves in particular ways. Others may close and open their wings repeatedly. The behavior varies, but the purpose is similar. Gain warmth. Prepare for movement. Begin the day. If the morning is cool, the process can take longer. A butterfly may remain almost completely motionless. To someone walking past, it might appear lifeless. But inside, its metabolism is gradually changing as its temperature rises. The muscles are becoming more capable of movement. The nervous system becomes more active. Eventually, the wings begin to move. A few gentle motions, then a stronger flutter, and suddenly, the butterfly lifts away from the leaf. It is airborne again. For such a small animal, flight is an extraordinary achievement. The butterfly must constantly adjust its wings to remain in the air. Every movement of the wings affects its direction. A slight change can send it upward. Another can move it sideways. A different rhythm can slow it down. The insect is continuously making tiny adjustments. Its flight may look random to us, but much of that movement is controlled, and some of the apparent randomness may actually be useful. A predictable flight path would make a butterfly easier for a predator to intercept. An irregular flight pattern can make pursuit more difficult. Birds are extremely capable aerial hunters. They can make rapid adjustments. They can predict movement. They can dive. So a butterfly's survival may depend partly on not behaving like an easy target. Some butterflies fly low among vegetation. Others remain high. Some move rapidly. Some glide. Some suddenly change direction. And some species use their wing shape and behavior to imitate other flying insects. The air is therefore not simply empty space. It is another habitat. Butterflies occupy it temporarily. They move through invisible currents. They respond to wind. They use their wings to create lift. And every second of flight requires energy. That energy ultimately comes from food. For many adult butterflies, nectar is one of the most important sources. A butterfly may visit dozens of flowers during a day. It can move from one flower to another, extending its proboscis into the floral openings. The proboscis itself is an elegant structure. When not in use, it is coiled. When the butterfly feeds, it uncoils. This allows the insect to reach nectar without needing a large mouth. The structure is flexible and remarkably delicate. It also allows butterflies to exploit flowers with different shapes. Some flowers have shallow nectar sources. Others place nectar deeper inside. A long proboscis can provide access. This relationship between flower shape and insect anatomy has been influenced by evolution. Flowers benefit from being pollinated. Butterflies benefit from obtaining food. Over long periods, plants and insects can influence one another's evolution. This process can contribute to specialized relationships. A particular flower may become more attractive to certain insects. An insect may become especially effective at feeding from certain flowers. Neither organism planned the relationship. It emerged through generations of natural selection. The result can be astonishingly precise. A butterfly lands. It finds the nectar. Its body touches pollen. It flies away. The next flower receives some of that pollen. and the plant continues its reproductive cycle. A single butterfly can therefore become a moving connection between flowers. It carries biological material from one place to another. This is one reason pollinators are so important. But butterflies are not simply flying pollen brushes. Their ecological roles are much broader. Their caterpillars are food for many animals. Birds feed on them. Wasps hunt them. Spiders capture them. Small mammals may consume them. Other insects prey upon them. In this way, butterflies and their larvae form part of food webs. A caterpillar feeding on a leaf becomes food for a bird. The bird becomes food for another predator. The plant provides energy to the caterpillar. The caterpillar transfers that energy upward through the food chain. The butterfly that eventually emerges may then pollinate flowers. One species can therefore occupy several ecological roles during different stages of its life. The caterpillar and adult butterfly may look like completely different animals, yet they participate in the same larger ecosystem. This is one of the unusual features of complete metamorphosis. A butterfly essentially changes ecological jobs as it develops. The caterpillar is primarily a plant eater. The adult is often a nectar feeder and pollinator. The caterpillar crawls. The adult flies. The caterpillar grows. The adult reproduces. The two stages use different resources. This separation can reduce competition between young and adult individuals of the same species. Imagine if adult butterflies and caterpillars competed for exactly the same food. They would be sharing resources throughout their entire lives. Instead, the transformation separates those stages. The caterpillar feeds on leaves. The adult searches for flowers and mates. The species can therefore use different parts of the environment at different times. Metamorphosis is not merely visually spectacular. It is an ecological strategy, and the more closely we look, the more purposeful these biological patterns become. The caterpillar's body is designed for eating. Its mouth parts are adapted for chewing. Its digestive system processes large amounts of plant material. Its body grows rapidly. Then, during pupation, the adult structures develop. The wings form. The adult mouth parts develop. The reproductive organs mature. The sensory systems change. The entire body becomes adapted for the next stage. This transformation involves hormones. Hormones are chemical signals that coordinate changes throughout the body. One important group of insect hormones helps regulate growth and metamorphosis. The balance between these signals changes as the caterpillar develops. Eventually, the hormonal environment triggers the transition toward pupation. Later, another hormonal sequence supports the emergence of the adult. So behind the visible transformation is a complex biochemical system. The butterfly does not simply decide to become a butterfly. Its cells receive chemical instructions. Genes are activated. Proteins are produced. Tissues change. Cells divide. Some structures are broken down. Others develop. The process is extraordinarily coordinated. And all of it happens inside a chrysalis that may appear completely silent from the outside. If you were to see a chrysalis hanging beneath a leaf, you might assume nothing is happening. But the stillness is deceptive. The chrysalis is a stage of enormous biological activity. This is one reason metamorphosis has fascinated humans for centuries. The transformation seems almost symbolic. A crawling creature becomes a flying one. A creature confined to leaves gains access to the sky. The old body disappears. A new body emerges. But biology makes the process even more interesting than the symbolism. Not every part of the caterpillar simply dissolves. Certain tissues and structures are retained and reorganized. Special groups of cells already present in the larval body contribute to adult structures. The transformation is therefore more like a carefully controlled rebuilding process than a complete destruction and reconstruction from nothing. The developing butterfly has biological instructions guiding the process. And eventually, the adult emerges. One of the first challenges is expanding the wings. Freshly emerged butterflies have soft, folded wings. They cannot fly immediately. The insect pumps hemolymph through the wing veins. The fluid pressure helps expand the wings. Then the wings must dry and harden. This can take time. During this vulnerable period, the butterfly may remain hidden. A predator finding a newly emerged butterfly could easily capture it. So the location of the chrysalis matters. The butterfly needs a place where it can emerge safely. The caterpillar may have selected that location based on environmental cues. It may attach itself beneath a leaf, along a stem, or in another sheltered position. Once the transformation is complete, the butterfly is ready to begin adult life. But the adult's first task is not necessarily feeding. It may need to find a mate. And this introduces another remarkable part of butterfly biology. Butterflies can communicate through both visual and chemical signals. Wing patterns are often important. A male may recognize a female by her color, shape, movement, and flight pattern. In some species, males can detect females from a surprising distance. Chemical signals can travel through the air. A male may use his antennae to detect pheromones. These molecules can reveal the presence of a potential mate. The amount of information contained in a tiny chemical signal can be extraordinary. A butterfly does not need to see another butterfly clearly. It may detect a scent first. Then it searches. This makes the air itself part of the communication network. The invisible molecules moving through it carry information. For humans, most of these signals are completely undetectable. We may walk through the same meadow and experience only the smell of grass and flowers. A butterfly may experience a much richer chemical landscape. One molecule can mean food. Another can indicate a host plant. Another can indicate a mate. Another may indicate danger. The butterfly's nervous system translates these chemical signals into behavior. This is one of the reasons insects can appear to make decisions so quickly. Their sensory systems are specialized for the environments they inhabit. They do not need to process every detail of the world. They need to process the details that matter to survival. A butterfly does not need to understand a mountain, but it needs to know whether the temperature is suitable for flight. It does not need to understand a flower's evolutionary history, but it needs to recognize whether the flower contains accessible nectar. It does not need to know what a bird is, but it needs to detect movement and respond quickly. Evolution tends to favor useful information, and butterfly sensory systems are built around it. Even the legs can provide information. When a butterfly lands, chemical receptors on its feet can help it identify surfaces. This can be particularly important for females selecting host plants. The female is essentially carrying a biological testing system on her legs. She touches the leaf. Chemical information is detected. The nervous system responds. The plant is accepted or rejected. Then the butterfly moves on. It may seem like a simple sequence, but the survival of the next generation can depend on the accuracy of that decision. A caterpillar cannot travel endlessly in search of food. The egg needs to be placed somewhere appropriate. If the female selects the wrong plant, the larva may struggle to survive. Natural selection therefore favors females that are good at identifying suitable host plants. Over generations, those abilities can become highly specialized. This is one reason butterflies are so closely associated with particular plants. Some caterpillars can feed on only a small range of species. Others are more flexible. The degree of specialization varies. A specialist may be vulnerable if its host plant declines. A generalist may have more options, but specialization can also provide advantages. If fewer species compete for the same plant, a specialist may exploit a resource very effectively. Evolution is often a balance between specialization and flexibility, and butterflies demonstrate this balance again and again. Some species have adapted to deserts, others to mountains, others to tropical forests, others to northern climates. The ability to survive in different environments requires different strategies. In deserts, water is scarce. In mountains, temperatures can be low. In tropical forests, competition may be intense. In northern regions, seasons can be short. Butterflies have evolved ways of dealing with all these challenges. Some species can survive cold periods and dormant stages. Others migrate. Some spend winter as eggs, some as larvae, some as pupae, some as adults. The stage that survives winter varies by species. This is known as overwintering. An insect that cannot tolerate freezing conditions may avoid the coldest months by entering a dormant state. Metabolism slows. Growth pauses. Activity becomes minimal. When environmental conditions improve, development resumes. This allows butterflies to survive seasonal changes that would otherwise be dangerous. In colder regions, this ability is essential. A caterpillar may enter winter tucked beneath vegetation. A chrysalis may remain attached to a branch for months. The world outside can become cold and quiet. Snow may cover the landscape. The insect waits. Then spring arrives. Temperatures rise, plants begin growing, and the life cycle resumes. For a creature that seems so fragile, surviving winter can be an extraordinary achievement. Some butterflies have even evolved ways of tolerating freezing temperatures. Their bodies can accumulate compounds that help reduce the damage caused by ice formation. In other cases, insects choose microhabitats where temperatures remain slightly more stable. A sheltered location beneath leaves can be dramatically different from the open air. A few degrees can make the difference between survival and death. Again, small details matter. The butterfly's world is measured in tiny changes. A patch of sunlight, a sheltered leaf, a warm stone, a particular plant, a protected stem, each can become important. This is why habitat fragmentation can be so harmful. Imagine a large meadow divided into many small patches by roads, buildings, and other barriers. A butterfly may still find flowers, but the host plants may be separated. Sheltered places may disappear. Migration routes may become more difficult. Populations may become isolated. Small populations are more vulnerable to environmental changes. Conservation, therefore, often focuses on maintaining connected habitats. A butterfly needs more than one flower. It needs a landscape. It needs places to feed, places to reproduce, places to shelter, places to overwinter, and sometimes places to migrate through. The idea of a wildlife corridor becomes important here. A corridor is a connected strip or network of suitable habitat that allows animals to move between larger areas. For butterflies, corridors can consist of flowering plants, native vegetation, forest edges, meadows, wetlands, or other suitable habitats. The concept is simple. Instead of creating isolated islands of habitat, connect them. A butterfly moving through the landscape can then find resources along the way. This becomes particularly important as environments change. Climate can shift the timing of flowering. Temperatures can change the range of species. Butterflies may move toward cooler regions or higher elevations. But their host plants also need to move or remain available. A butterfly cannot simply relocate if the plants it depends upon do not follow. This creates complicated ecological relationships. One species changes, another species responds, then another changes. Climate is not a single factor. It influences entire communities. Butterflies are sensitive to temperature because their bodies are ectothermic. A warmer environment can speed development, but excessive heat can also be harmful. A plant may flower earlier. A caterpillar may emerge at a different time. A mismatch can occur. The caterpillar may hatch after the most suitable leaves have already matured, or the butterfly may emerge after the peak flowering period. Timing matters. Biology is full of timing. The right temperature, the right season, the right plant, the right moment. Everything must overlap. This is why scientists study butterfly populations over long periods. A single observation tells us very little, but observations across years can reveal patterns. Scientists can record when butterflies emerge, where they are found, which plants they use, how populations change, how migration patterns shift. Such information can reveal environmental changes that might otherwise be difficult to detect. Butterflies therefore become living records of ecological conditions. They are small, but their responses can reveal larger patterns. And perhaps this is another reason to notice them. A butterfly crossing a garden is not merely a pleasant sight. It is also part of a biological signal. The timing of its appearance tells us something. The plants it visits tell us something. Its abundance tells us something. Its absence may also tell us something. Nature speaks through patterns. We simply have to learn how to listen. As the morning grows brighter, more butterflies begin appearing. One emerges from the grass. Another rests on a flower. A third crosses the path and disappears into the trees. Their wings flash briefly in the sunlight. Then they are gone. If you stand still, more begin to appear. This is one of the strange effects of slowing down. At first, you think the meadow is empty. Then your eyes adjust. A movement in the grass. A flicker near a flower. A tiny shape crossing the sunlight. Another butterfly becomes visible, and suddenly the landscape feels alive. The butterflies were there all along. You simply had not noticed them. This happens often in nature. The world does not become more complicated when we slow down. We simply become better at seeing the complexity that was already there. And perhaps, for tonight, that is enough. You can imagine the meadow warming beneath the rising sun. The butterflies begin their daily movements. Some search for nectar. Some search for mates. Some patrol territories. Some rest. Some continue journeys begun days earlier. And somewhere nearby, beneath a leaf, a tiny caterpillar is eating. It has no wings yet, no bright colors, no ability to fly. But within its small body is the potential for an entirely different form. Soon it will grow, then change, then wait, and eventually, one morning, it too will open its wings to the sunlight. The cycle continues quietly. Leaf to caterpillar, caterpillar to chrysalis, chrysalis to butterfly, butterfly to egg, egg to caterpillar, and onward. A circle without beginning or end from the perspective of the ecosystem. The individual disappears. The story continues. And as the butterflies move through the warm morning air, the meadow becomes their entire world. A small world. A beautiful world. A world filled with hidden signals, ancient instincts, delicate wings, and extraordinary survival strategies. A world that can be explored endlessly. And tonight, we are only beginning to uncover how much is hidden behind those wings. The sun climbs higher, the flowers open wider, and the butterflies continue to drift through the air, quietly, patiently, beautifully, as if the sky itself has learned how to breathe. The morning has become warmer now. The meadow that was quiet beneath the cool darkness has transformed into a living landscape of movement and color. Flowers are open, leaves are glowing beneath the sunlight. Tiny insects move between stems, and butterflies have begun their daily journeys. Yet even now, many of the most interesting things happening around them remain almost impossible to see. A butterfly does not simply fly from flower to flower. It is constantly receiving information. Light touches its eyes, scents reach its antennae, its feet contact leaves and flowers. Air currents move across its body. Temperature changes around it. Every moment brings another collection of signals. The butterfly's nervous system must somehow organize all of this information and produce useful behavior. For an animal with such a small brain, this is remarkable. The butterfly brain is tiny compared with a human brain, but size alone does not tell us how capable a nervous system can be. A butterfly can recognize visual patterns. It can learn associations. It can remember useful locations. It can respond to changing conditions. Some butterflies can learn to associate particular colors with food rewards. This means that learning is not limited to animals with large brains. Even a tiny insect can change its behavior based on experience. A butterfly that repeatedly finds nectar in flowers of a particular color may become more likely to visit similar flowers. The insect does not need to understand the concept of color. It simply learns that a particular visual pattern is associated with something valuable. This kind of learning can save energy. Instead of searching randomly, the butterfly can focus on signals that have proven useful. Experience becomes part of its behavior. And this is especially interesting because butterflies live relatively short lives. Even within a short lifespan, learning can provide an advantage. A newly emerged butterfly begins with instincts, but experience can refine those instincts. It may learn where food is abundant. It may learn which areas are dangerous. It may become better at locating resources. The distinction between instinct and learning is not always absolute. Nature often combines both. The butterfly begins life with a nervous system shaped by evolution. Then experience modifies how that nervous system responds. The result is behavior that is both inherited and flexible. This flexibility becomes particularly valuable in changing environments. Flowers do not remain open forever. Weather changes. Predators move. Plants bloom at different times. A butterfly that can adjust its behavior has an advantage. The same meadow can look completely different from one day to the next. A flower patch may be full of nectar today and nearly empty tomorrow. Rain may temporarily close flowers. Wind may move butterflies away from one area. A new plant may begin flowering. The butterfly must respond. Its world is constantly changing, and the ability to learn can help it keep up. There is also something fascinating about how butterflies perceive movement. Their compound eyes are particularly useful for detecting changes in the visual environment. A predator approaching from the side may produce movement that catches the butterfly's attention. A passing butterfly may trigger a response. A sudden shadow can signal danger. This is especially important because a butterfly often has only a fraction of a second to react. Flight is one of its primary defenses. If something approaches, the butterfly may launch immediately. It may zigzag. It may disappear into vegetation. It may fly toward a bright patch of sunlight. It may simply change direction. The response can be so fast that it looks like the butterfly vanished. One moment it is sitting on a flower. The next, the flower is empty. This is why approaching butterflies slowly is often more successful than moving quickly toward them. Sudden movements are easy for them to detect. A slow approach may be less threatening. Their sensitivity to movement also helps explain why butterflies sometimes appear to dance around one another. Not every aerial interaction is courtship. Some may involve territorial behavior. A male may see another butterfly entering an area and investigate. The two insects may chase one another. Sometimes the encounter ends quickly. Sometimes it continues for several minutes. The air becomes a temporary arena. A branch, rock, or elevated plant can serve as a lookout point. From there, a male can monitor the surrounding space. This behavior is known as hilltopping in some species. Males gather at elevated locations such as hills, ridges, or high points in the landscape. These locations can become meeting places where potential mates encounter one another. The reason certain species choose elevated areas may relate to visibility, airflow, and the movement of butterflies through the landscape. From a human perspective, the choice can seem strange. Why would a tiny insect travel to the top of a hill? But for a butterfly, the hill may provide an excellent place to encounter others. The landscape becomes part of the mating system. Geography influences behavior. A particular ridge can become important. A particular clearing can become important. A particular tree can become important. And if that habitat disappears, the behavior can become much more difficult. This is another reason conservation must consider behavior as well as physical habitat. A patch of land may appear suitable to humans, but still fail to provide the exact conditions a species needs. A butterfly may require a specific plant, a particular elevation, a particular amount of sunlight, a sheltered area, a specific seasonal pattern. The details matter. Butterflies are also sensitive to wind. Their small bodies can be pushed around by strong air currents. Some species respond by staying close to vegetation. Others use sheltered routes. A butterfly flying through a forest experiences a very different aerodynamic environment from one flying over an open field. Trees and leaves break up the wind. The forest can create pockets of relatively calm air. An open meadow can expose the insect to stronger currents. This influences where butterflies choose to fly. It can also influence migration. Long-distance migrants may take advantage of favorable winds. They can reduce the amount of energy required for movement by allowing air currents to assist their journey. The sky is therefore not simply a space to cross. It is a moving environment. Air has direction. Air has speed. Air has temperature. And butterflies interact with all of it. Even a gentle breeze can change the path of a tiny insect. This is why butterfly flight can sometimes appear effortless. The insect may be actively controlling its wings, but it may also be using the environment. A gliding movement can conserve energy. A rising air current can provide temporary lift. A sheltered area can make flight easier. The butterfly is not fighting the atmosphere every second. It is working with it. This is a useful lesson in nature. Survival does not always mean using more energy. Sometimes it means finding ways to let the environment do part of the work. Butterflies also have remarkable relationships with water. Although they obtain much of their energy from nectar, water, and dissolved minerals can be important. On warm days, groups of butterflies may gather around wet ground. The sight can be extraordinary. Dozens of butterflies may appear to be resting together on mud or damp soil. Their wings may open and close. Some may move slightly. Others remain still. This gathering is not necessarily social in the way humans understand social behavior. The butterflies are often attracted to the same resource. The soil contains dissolved minerals. Water allows those minerals to be absorbed. The gathering therefore happens because many individuals need the same thing. Yet the result looks like a social gathering. Butterflies are not always solitary. Their behavior can bring them together when resources are concentrated. Puddling is one example. Migration is another. In some species, large numbers of butterflies can move through the same region. The sky can briefly become filled with wings. For a tiny insect, such collective movement is extraordinary. And one of the most famous examples remains the monarch. Monarch migration has inspired generations of scientists and nature observers. Some monarch populations travel between breeding regions and overwintering sites over enormous distances. Their migration is connected to seasonal changes. As temperatures shift and plants become less available, the butterflies begin moving. The journey is not simply a response to cold. It is part of a larger annual biological cycle. The butterflies reproduce along the way. Different generations can participate in the seasonal cycle. This means the butterflies that eventually return north may not be exactly the same individuals that began the previous journey south. The migration is therefore a multi-generational phenomenon. The route can persist even though individual butterflies have short lives. This raises one of the most fascinating questions in animal behavior. How does a creature know where to go if it has never personally made the entire journey? The answer involves inherited behavior, environmental cues, biological clocks, and navigation systems. The monarch's nervous system can use the sun as a compass. Its internal clock helps compensate for the changing position of the sun. This provides directional information. The butterfly can also respond to Earth's magnetic field under certain conditions. Research suggests that monarchs possess magnetic sensing abilities that can contribute to navigation, particularly when sunlight is unavailable. The exact mechanisms are complex and remain an area of scientific study. But the basic idea is extraordinary. A butterfly may possess multiple systems for finding direction. The sun provides one source of information. The Earth's magnetic field can provide another. Wind provides information and transportation. Landscape features may also contribute. Together, these systems allow an insect to travel through a huge continent. This is one reason butterflies can be so fascinating scientifically. They demonstrate that sophisticated navigation does not require a large mammalian brain. Evolution has created different solutions to the problem of movement. Birds navigate, fish navigate, sea turtles navigate, insects navigate. The mechanisms differ, but the challenge is similar. Find the right direction. Avoid getting lost. Reach useful habitat. Reproduce. Survive. For butterflies, the challenge is intensified by their size. A mountain range is enormous. A river can be enormous. A city can be enormous. A small butterfly crossing the landscape is essentially moving through a world of giant obstacles. Yet it can still find suitable areas. This is especially impressive when we remember how small some butterflies are. Not every butterfly is large and brightly colored. Some are tiny. The smallest species can have wingspans of only a few centimeters or less. Their size can make them difficult to notice. A tiny butterfly can rest on a single leaf and remain almost invisible. Its entire world can be concentrated around a small patch of vegetation. Other butterflies are much larger. The birdwing butterflies of tropical regions include some of the largest butterflies in the world. Their wings can be strikingly broad. Some species have wingspans approaching or exceeding 20 centimeters. Imagine a butterfly large enough that its wings could span the width of your hand. The variation between the smallest and largest butterflies demonstrates the incredible diversity within the group. Size affects everything: flight, energy requirements, predator avoidance, heat absorption, host plant selection, even how easily an insect can be carried by wind. A very small butterfly may respond strongly to air currents. A larger species may have more control over its flight, but larger bodies also require more energy. Evolution constantly balances these pressures. There is no single perfect butterfly design. There are thousands of solutions. A species living in a shaded forest may evolve differently from one living in an open desert. A butterfly active at high elevations faces different challenges from one living near sea level. Some species have dark wings that help them absorb heat. Others may use behaviors that maximize exposure to sunlight. In cold environments, warming can be a major part of daily survival. A butterfly cannot simply begin flying whenever it wants. Its muscles need the right conditions. This is why sunny patches can be valuable habitat. A small opening in a forest canopy can become a warm platform. A rock can become a basking site. A fence can become a temporary heat collector. Butterflies may return to the same locations repeatedly because those places provide reliable conditions. This is another example of learned or inherited site use. A landscape contains invisible resources. Humans see a rock. A butterfly may see a warm platform. Humans see a muddy patch. A butterfly may see minerals. Humans see a particular flower. A butterfly may see food. The same physical landscape can have completely different meanings to different species. This is one of the most beautiful ideas in ecology. There is no single landscape. Every organism experiences its environment according to its needs. A forest is not just trees. For a butterfly, it may be a collection of host plants, nectar sources, shelter, sunlight patches, wind corridors, predators, mates, and resting places. A meadow is not just grass. It may be a network of thousands of biological opportunities, and butterflies move through that network. Their bodies are also covered with microscopic structures that contribute to their ability to interact with the environment. The scales on their wings are not simply decorative. They can influence color. They can affect how light is reflected. They may contribute to thermoregulation. They can also make the wing surface less appealing to certain parasites or contaminants. Some scales are modified into structures involved in releasing pheromones. In certain butterflies, males possess specialized scent scales called androconia. These scales can help distribute chemical compounds during courtship. The male may release pheromones that influence female behavior. The exact structures differ between species, but the basic concept is fascinating. The wing is simultaneously a flight surface, a visual signal, and sometimes part of a chemical communication system. A single structure can perform multiple jobs. This efficiency is common in small animals. When an organism is tiny, there is limited physical space. Biological structures often become multifunctional. The wing must be light enough for flight. It can also carry patterns for communication. Its scales can produce color. Some specialized scales can help distribute chemicals. The result is a remarkably efficient design. The butterfly's body is similarly organized. The head contains the sensory organs. The thorax contains the major flight muscles and legs. The abdomen contains much of the digestive and reproductive machinery. 3 body regions. 1 small animal. And inside each region is a world of specialized structures. The legs themselves are more interesting than they appear. Butterflies have 6 legs, like other insects. Their legs are not merely for walking. They can help with sensing. They can help with gripping surfaces. They can help with positioning during feeding. In some butterflies, the forelegs are reduced or held in unusual positions, especially in certain families. Some butterflies even appear to have only 4 legs when viewed casually, but the front pair is still present. It may be modified and less obvious. This is a useful reminder that visual appearances can be misleading. Even counting the legs of a butterfly requires looking closely. And looking closely is exactly what reveals the hidden complexity. The antennae are similarly specialized. Their club tips are characteristic of butterflies. They are not simply decorative extensions. They contain sensory receptors that detect odors and other environmental information. For an insect, smell can be a major source of information. A butterfly may follow chemical trails. It may detect a mate. It may identify a plant. It may avoid danger, all through molecules moving through the air. Imagine standing in a meadow unable to see. You might notice only a few scents. But a butterfly's sensory system is designed for a different chemical world. The same breeze carrying almost nothing meaningful to a human nose may contain valuable information for an insect. The air is full of invisible messages. Butterflies live among them. This becomes particularly important during reproduction. Finding a mate is not easy for a small insect spread across a large landscape. Chemical signals can increase the chances. Visual signals can help. Flight patterns can help. Territorial behavior can help. Timing can help. The entire system works together, and the female eventually selects a mate. After mating, her attention turns toward reproduction. She must locate suitable plants. This returns us to the leaf. The same plant that once seemed like a simple green surface now becomes the beginning of a new generation. She touches it, tests it, and eventually lays an egg. The egg is tiny. The adult butterfly may be beautiful and highly visible, but the next generation begins almost invisibly. A small sphere or oval attached to a leaf. Sometimes it is hidden. Sometimes it is brightly colored. Sometimes it is placed where predators are less likely to find it. The female may lay many eggs during her lifetime, but only a small fraction may survive to adulthood. This is normal in nature. Most offspring do not need to survive for a population to continue. The strategy is based on producing enough offspring that some reach maturity. Predation is intense. Weather can destroy eggs. Parasites can attack caterpillars. Disease can spread. Plants can become unavailable. A storm can wash insects away. And yet enough survive. The survivors become the next generation. This is one of the quiet mathematics of evolution. A butterfly population does not require every egg to become an adult. It only requires enough successful reproduction to maintain itself over time. The enormous number of eggs and larvae produced across generations creates opportunities for variation. Some individuals survive, others do not. Traits associated with survival become more common. Over long periods, populations change. This is natural selection. And butterflies provide countless examples of it. Their colors, their mimicry, their host-plant relationships, their migration, their seasonal forms, all have been influenced by evolutionary pressures. Some butterflies even change appearance depending on environmental conditions during development. Temperature, humidity, day length, and other factors can influence the expression of certain traits. This can produce seasonal forms. A butterfly emerging in one part of the year may look somewhat different from one emerging in another season. The differences can involve color intensity, pattern, size, or other characteristics. This flexibility is called phenotypic plasticity. It allows the same genetic background to produce different appearances under different environmental conditions. Such flexibility can be useful when conditions change predictably. For example, a species may experience different predator communities or environmental conditions in different seasons. A different appearance may provide better camouflage or protection. Nature, therefore, does not always rely on permanent genetic change. Sometimes an organism can adjust its development based on environmental signals. The butterfly becomes a living response to its surroundings. This idea becomes even more fascinating when we consider camouflage. A caterpillar living on fresh green leaves may benefit from being green. But if the surrounding environment changes, camouflage becomes more difficult. Some species have evolved complex patterns that help them blend into particular plants. Others rely on behavior. A caterpillar may position itself along a leaf vein. It may remain motionless. It may choose the underside of a leaf. The behavior and appearance work together. Camouflage is not always a static color. It can be a complete strategy, where the insect rests, how it holds its body, when it moves, how quickly it responds. All can influence whether a predator notices it. This is why an apparently obvious caterpillar can suddenly become impossible to find. You look away for a moment. The caterpillar is gone, but it may still be there, hidden along a stem, beneath a leaf, motionless, waiting. The same principle applies to adult butterflies. A butterfly with closed wings may look completely different from the same butterfly with open wings. Some species have bright upper wing surfaces but dull undersides. When flying, they display bright colors. When resting, they close their wings and reveal camouflage. This creates two visual identities in one animal. Open wings, communication. Closed wings, protection. The transformation takes only seconds. The butterfly can change its appearance simply by changing its posture. This is a remarkably simple but effective strategy. The wings are not physically changing color. The insect is controlling which surface the predator sees. A predator approaching a butterfly in flight may see a flash of bright color. The butterfly lands. The wings close. The bright surface disappears. Suddenly, the predator faces a different visual pattern. The butterfly may blend into the background. This can make pursuit difficult. Some species take this even further with false eyes, false heads, and deceptive markings. A butterfly may have wing tails that resemble antennae. If a predator attacks the tail end, the butterfly may survive even if part of the wing is damaged. In some species, the false head is positioned near the hind wings. The predator may mistake this end for the actual head. The butterfly can then escape in the opposite direction. A tiny detail on a wing can therefore redirect an attack. Evolution has repeatedly produced such tricks. And the more we study butterflies, the more creative these solutions seem. Yet none of this requires conscious planning. The patterns were shaped over generations. Individuals with variations that improved survival were more likely to reproduce. Over immense periods, the population changed. The result is a butterfly that looks as though it were designed specifically to deceive predators. But the design emerged gradually. That is one of the central ideas of evolution. Complexity can arise without a designer. Small differences accumulate. Natural selection filters those differences. Time does the rest. And butterflies have had an enormous amount of time. Their evolutionary history stretches back tens of millions of years. Ancient butterfly relatives lived in ecosystems very different from those we know today. Continents were positioned differently. Climates changed. Plants evolved. Predators changed. Butterflies changed with them. Some lineages disappeared. Others survived. New species emerged. The diversity we see today is the result of this long history. Every butterfly is therefore a living piece of evolutionary history. When an orange butterfly passes through a garden, it carries millions of years of history in its genes. When a caterpillar eats a leaf, it is participating in a life cycle shaped by ancient relationships between insects and plants. When a butterfly migrates, it follows behavioral systems that have been refined across generations. The tiny creature may live only a short time, but its lineage is ancient. And this contrast is beautiful. A short individual life can belong to an extraordinarily long story. The butterfly does not need to live for millions of years. Its lineage does. Generation after generation, the story continues. And perhaps that is one reason butterflies feel almost timeless. We see one individual, but behind it are countless ancestors. Each survived long enough to reproduce. Each passed genetic information forward. Each contributed something to the continuation of the lineage. The butterfly in front of us is the latest chapter, not the entire book. As the sun moves across the sky, the butterfly continues its journey. It visits another flower, then another. A breeze lifts it slightly. It changes direction. It lands on a leaf. For a moment, it rests. Its wings close. The world becomes still again. Then another movement catches its attention. The butterfly takes flight. And somewhere nearby, another generation is beginning its own quiet story. An egg rests on a leaf. Inside it, development continues. A tiny organism is forming. Soon, the shell will break. A caterpillar will emerge. It will begin to eat. And the long journey toward wings will begin again. The cycle is always moving forward. Even when individual creatures are resting, the larger system continues. Flowers bloom. Eggs develop. Caterpillars grow. Chrysalises hang. Adults fly. Predators hunt. Plants reproduce. Seeds spread. Seasons change. And butterflies move through it all. Quietly. Delicately, persistently. The meadow does not need to announce any of this. It simply happens. And if we remain quiet enough, we can almost feel the rhythm. The slow rhythm of sunlight warming wings. The soft movement of grass. The gentle opening of flowers. The distant sound of birds. The flutter of wings passing through the air. And beneath everything, the ancient rhythm of life continuing from one generation to the next. There is still so much more hidden within the world of butterflies. Some species have extraordinary survival strategies. Some have astonishing relationships with other animals. Some can survive in places that seem completely unsuitable. Some have colors that appear to glow. Some migrate across enormous distances. Some spend years in their immature stages before becoming adults. And some live such short adult lives that their entire existence seems like a brief moment of sunlight. But every one of them belongs to the same extraordinary story. A story of transformation. A story of adaptation. A story of movement. A story written on wings. And as the afternoon slowly begins to arrive, the butterflies continue drifting across the meadow. The air is warm. The flowers are bright. The leaves shimmer softly. And for a little while, everything seems perfectly still, except for the wings. The afternoon light has begun to soften. The brightest part of the day is slowly passing, and the meadow has taken on a warmer, quieter appearance. The butterflies that spent the morning moving between flowers are beginning to settle into familiar patterns. Some continue feeding, others search for mates. Some patrol small territories, and some simply rest. A butterfly can spend surprisingly long periods doing almost nothing. To human eyes, this may seem like inactivity, but rest can be an important part of survival. Flight requires energy. Searching for food requires energy. Escaping predators requires energy. Reproduction requires energy. The butterfly must constantly balance what it gains against what it spends. This is one reason nectar-rich flowers can be so valuable. A flower is essentially a small energy station. The butterfly lands. Its wings become still. The proboscis uncoils. Nectar enters the feeding tube. The insect receives sugars. Then it moves away. The entire process may take only moments. But over the course of a day, hundreds of these small feeding decisions can add up. The sugars in nectar are especially useful for powering flight. Butterfly muscles require energy to move the wings repeatedly. Without enough food, the insect becomes less active. This relationship between feeding and flight creates a daily rhythm. Find food. Warm up. Fly. Rest. Feed again. Search. Rest. The rhythm varies with weather and species, but the basic principle remains. Energy controls behavior. A butterfly may choose flowers not only because they contain nectar, but because their location is efficient. A cluster of flowers can provide several feeding opportunities without requiring long flights between them. This reduces energy expenditure. Insects constantly make these kinds of energetic trade-offs. A resource is valuable not only because it contains food, but because of the cost required to reach it. A flower high in a tree may contain abundant nectar, but reaching it may require difficult flight. A flower close to shelter may provide less nectar, but be safer. A butterfly's behavior reflects these competing pressures. Survival is rarely about maximizing one thing. It is about balancing many things at once. Food, safety, temperature, mating opportunities, shelter, distance, time. The butterfly's short life makes these decisions particularly important. Some adults have only a few weeks in which to reproduce. Every day matters. Yet the insect does not experience this as a human would. There is no calendar in its mind. Its behavior emerges from biological signals and changing environmental conditions. The body becomes hungry. The temperature rises. A flower appears. A mate is detected. A predator approaches. The nervous system responds. The butterfly moves. This simplicity can produce surprisingly complex behavior. One of the most interesting examples is territoriality. Some male butterflies defend small areas. A territory may contain useful resources or simply be a location where females are likely to pass. The male may perch on a branch and wait. Another butterfly enters. The male launches. A chase begins. The intruder may be another male. The two may fly rapidly through the air. The chase can continue for several seconds or minutes before one leaves. Then the original male returns to its perch. It waits again. From a human perspective, the behavior can look repetitive, but repetition is exactly what the strategy requires. The male is maintaining access to a location. If a female passes through, he needs to be there. This is a form of patience. A tiny insect spends much of its day waiting. The world around it changes. Clouds move. Flowers sway. Birds fly overhead. Yet the butterfly remains on its perch. Then suddenly, something changes. A moving shape appears. The butterfly takes off. Its behavior becomes rapid and energetic. and after the encounter, it returns to waiting. This contrast between stillness and sudden movement is common throughout butterfly life. A resting butterfly can appear almost motionless. Then, in an instant, it becomes one of the fastest moving things in its immediate surroundings. The ability to switch between these states saves energy. Constant movement would be expensive. Stillness is efficient. But when movement is necessary, the butterfly responds quickly. This is especially important when predators approach. A butterfly resting with its wings closed may rely on camouflage, but if the predator comes too close, flight becomes the backup plan. The insect launches. The predator must react. The butterfly changes direction. Sometimes it escapes. Sometimes it does not. Predation is one of the strongest forces shaping butterfly behavior. Birds are particularly important. Many birds eat caterpillars. Some also specialize in catching adult butterflies. A bird flying through a meadow has excellent vision. Its eyes are designed to detect movement and shape. A butterfly therefore needs more than color. It needs behavior, camouflage, flight, warning patterns, and sometimes mimicry. The evolutionary relationship between butterflies and birds is a long-running contest. Birds become better at finding prey. Butterflies evolve better defenses. Birds learn to recognize patterns. Butterflies evolve new patterns. This process is sometimes described as an evolutionary arms race. Neither side is consciously competing in the human sense, but the result is competition. Predators that successfully find prey reproduce. Prey that successfully avoid predators reproduce. Over generations, both populations can change. The result can be extraordinary complexity. Consider a butterfly with a wing pattern resembling an eye. The pattern does not need to convince a bird that a giant animal is actually present. It may only need to produce hesitation. The bird sees something unexpected. Its brain pauses. That fraction of a second gives the butterfly time to escape. This illustrates an important principle of defensive behavior. Survival does not require perfection. It requires enough advantage to improve the odds. A camouflage pattern does not need to make a butterfly invisible every time. It only needs to help often enough. A warning color does not need to stop every predator. It only needs to discourage enough attacks. A false head does not need to fool every bird. It only needs to redirect enough attacks. Evolution works with probabilities. Small differences in survival can become important across generations. This is why natural selection can produce such intricate adaptations. A tiny advantage repeated over thousands of generations becomes part of a species. The butterfly's wing patterns are therefore records of evolutionary history. Each marking may reflect pressures from predators, mates, climate, and habitat. The colors we admire may have started as small variations. Perhaps one individual was slightly darker, another slightly brighter. A predator missed one. A mate preferred another. Over time, certain traits became more common. Eventually, an intricate pattern emerged. Evolution does not move toward perfection. It modifies what already exists. This is why butterfly species contain both beautiful solutions and obvious imperfections. Their wings may have scars. Their colors may vary. Their patterns may not be perfectly symmetrical. And yet the organism works. Natural selection is not an artist trying to create a perfect image. It is a process favoring successful reproduction. The resulting beauty is a consequence. One of the most striking examples of evolutionary beauty is iridescence. Some butterfly wings appear to shine blue, green, violet, or metallic depending on the angle of light. These colors may come from microscopic structures rather than traditional pigments. The scales can contain layers or ridges arranged at incredibly small scales. When light encounters those structures, certain wavelengths are reflected more strongly. The result is structural coloration. A blue butterfly may not contain blue pigment in the way we might expect. Instead, its wing surface is arranged so that blue light is preferentially reflected toward the observer. Change the angle. The color changes. Move the butterfly. The brightness shifts. The wing seems to glow and disappear at the same time. This is why photographs of iridescent butterflies can sometimes look different from what the human eye sees in person. The exact lighting and viewing angle matter. A butterfly may flash brightly when it turns, then appear almost brown when the angle changes. The effect can be startling. It is as though the insect carries a small piece of changing sky on its wings. But again, the structure has evolved for biological reasons. Iridescence can play roles in mate recognition and communication. It may also influence predator interactions. In some species, the sudden flash of color during flight may make tracking difficult. A predator sees the butterfly, then the butterfly changes angle. The bright reflection disappears. The insect becomes harder to follow. The same physical property can therefore have multiple effects. Color is never simply color. It is light, and light is information. Butterflies live in a world where sunlight provides warmth, vision, and signals. The angle of the sun changes throughout the day. Morning light is different from midday light. Evening light is different again. A butterfly's colors may therefore look different at different times. This can affect communication. Some species are active only during particular periods of the day. Others respond strongly to temperature. A butterfly that is active at midday may rarely be seen at dawn. Another species may be most active during cooler hours. The daily schedule depends on the species and environment. This diversity is one reason the term butterfly does not describe a single lifestyle. There are thousands of species, each with its own ecological strategy. Some are forest specialists. Some are meadow specialists. Some are mountain specialists. Some are wetland specialists. Some live in deserts. Others occur in urban environments. Butterflies can even adapt to human-created landscapes when suitable plants remain. Gardens can become miniature habitats. Roadside vegetation can provide nectar. Parks can provide host plants. Abandoned fields can become important breeding areas. This does not mean human landscapes are always good for butterflies. Many are severely altered. Pesticides can harm insects. Habitat destruction removes host plants. Mowing can eliminate flowers and caterpillars. Light pollution can alter behavior in some insects. Although butterflies are generally more active during daylight than moths. Climate change can shift seasonal timing and geographic ranges. Yet, carefully managed gardens and natural areas can provide meaningful resources. A single garden may contain nectar plants, but adding native host plants can make it far more useful. A butterfly garden is most valuable when it supports multiple life stages. Flowers feed adults. Host plants feed caterpillars. Shrubs and trees provide shelter. Leaf litter can provide overwintering habitat. A little untidiness can actually be beneficial. The perfect garden may not be the best butterfly garden. A completely clean landscape can remove the very places where insects survive. Leaves on the ground may look messy, but they can provide shelter. Dead stems may look unnecessary, but insects may use them. Native grasses may appear ordinary, but they can support caterpillars and other organisms. Nature often works best when we allow some complexity. Butterflies are part of that complexity. And when we create habitats for them, we are rarely helping butterflies alone. Flowers support bees. Plants support caterpillars. Caterpillars support birds. Seeds support other animals. Soil supports plants. The entire system benefits. This is why biodiversity matters. A landscape with many species can provide many ecological functions. Each organism contributes something. Butterflies contribute pollination. Their larvae contribute food. Their presence reflects plant diversity. Their populations can help scientists monitor change. They are threads in the larger ecological fabric. Pull away enough threads, and the fabric becomes weaker. Keep many threads connected, and the ecosystem becomes more resilient. This idea of connection is especially important for migrating butterflies. Migration requires landscapes. A butterfly cannot travel thousands of kilometers through empty space. It needs stepping stones, flowering areas, sheltered locations, suitable temperatures, host plants, water, minerals. Each stop may provide a different resource. For a migrating monarch, some regions are important for reproduction. Others are important for feeding. Others provide overwintering habitat. The journey is therefore not simply about distance. It is about a chain of suitable environments. Break the chain in enough places, and migration becomes harder. This is why conservation organizations and scientists often study entire migration routes rather than isolated locations. Protecting one small patch can help. Protecting connected habitat is even more powerful. The same principle applies to many other butterfly species. A population may occupy several seasonal habitats. The adults appear in spring. Later generations appear in summer. Another generation may survive winter. Each stage may use a different part of the landscape. The annual cycle becomes a moving pattern. The butterfly is not simply living in one place. Its habitat can change with the seasons. This is one reason butterfly records can reveal so much about climate. If a species begins appearing earlier in the year, something has changed. If it expands northward, something has changed. If its host plant flowers earlier, something has changed. All of these observations can become pieces of a larger environmental puzzle. Scientists can compare historical records with modern observations. Old museum specimens can even provide information. A butterfly collected decades or centuries ago preserves physical evidence of where a species once occurred. Natural history collections, therefore, become valuable scientific archives. A small insect pinned carefully in a museum can tell researchers something about past biodiversity. Modern genetic tools can reveal even more. DNA can help scientists understand relationships between species. It can reveal population structure. It can show how populations are connected. It can help identify species that look extremely similar. This is especially important because some butterflies are difficult to distinguish visually. Two species may have nearly identical wing patterns. Their genetic differences may reveal that they are separate evolutionary lineages. In other cases, populations that look different may still belong to the same species. Science therefore combines observation with genetics. The butterfly's appearance is only one part of the story. Its genes contain another, and its behavior contains another. Its habitat contains another. To understand a butterfly completely, scientists may need to combine all of these forms of information. This is the beauty of modern biology. A creature can be studied from many perspectives. Ecology asks where it lives and what it interacts with. Evolution asks how it changed over time. Genetics asks about its inherited information. Physiology asks how its body functions. Behavioral science asks how it responds to the environment. All these perspectives overlap. The butterfly becomes a meeting point for many branches of science. And still, after all the research, there are mysteries. Scientists continue discovering new species. New behaviors are documented. New chemical signals are identified. New relationships are uncovered. The more we study nature, the more questions appear. This is not a failure of science. It is one of its most beautiful features. Every answer opens another door, and butterflies have many doors. Consider their ability to perceive ultraviolet light. We know that some species can detect ultraviolet wavelengths, but the exact visual world experienced by a butterfly is still difficult for humans to imagine. We can use instruments to measure wavelengths. We can reconstruct patterns. We can model how their eyes respond, but we cannot literally see through a butterfly's eyes. Its sensory world remains partly inaccessible. This is true for many animals. Science can describe mechanisms. It can measure signals. But subjective experience is much harder to understand. What does a butterfly actually experience when sunlight strikes its wings? What does a flower look like through its eyes? How does a butterfly perceive another butterfly's color? We can study the biology, but there is still something mysterious about the inner experience of another species. Perhaps that mystery is part of the fascination. A butterfly can be scientifically understandable while still remaining wonderfully strange. The same is true of its memory. Experiments suggest that butterflies can learn and retain information. But what memory feels like inside a tiny insect brain is unknown. We can measure behavior. We can observe choices. We can test learning. Yet the inner world remains hidden. A butterfly may remember a location where it found food. It may learn an association between color and reward. It may respond differently after experience. These behaviors suggest that memory matters. And if memory matters, then the butterfly is not simply reacting mechanically to every moment. Its past experience can influence what it does next. That is a surprisingly rich idea for such a small animal. The past can shape the present. Experience can alter behavior. A butterfly's world is therefore not only the immediate environment. It also includes traces of previous encounters. A flower that provided nectar. A location where a predator appeared. A visual pattern associated with food. These experiences can affect future choices. And that makes the butterfly's journey more than a sequence of isolated reactions. It becomes a continuous interaction between biology and experience. The butterfly learns. The butterfly responds. The butterfly adapts. And then, eventually, its short life ends. But the next generation begins. The egg is already waiting. The life cycle continues. Perhaps that is the most peaceful part of the entire story. Nothing in the meadow needs to remain forever. The flowers bloom and fade. The butterfly emerges and disappears. The caterpillar grows and transforms. The seasons change. The landscape changes. And yet life continues through these changes. The butterfly does not need permanence. It needs continuity. One generation passes information to another. The lineage continues. The ecosystem continues. The meadow continues. And somewhere beneath a leaf, another tiny egg is beginning to develop. Almost invisible, almost weightless, yet containing the beginning of another extraordinary journey. Inside it, cells divide. Structures form. The future caterpillar takes shape. Soon, the shell will open. A tiny creature will emerge. It will begin eating, and the entire cycle will begin again. The butterfly world is full of beginnings that look like endings. The caterpillar disappears into the chrysalis. The chrysalis seems still. Then wings emerge. The adult butterfly eventually dies, but its eggs remain. The individual ends. The life cycle continues. And so, as the afternoon fades toward evening, the meadow slowly becomes quieter. The butterflies fly less frequently. Some begin searching for sheltered resting places. The flowers begin to close. The sunlight becomes softer. The same landscape that was full of movement in the morning is preparing for another night. A butterfly lands beneath a leaf. It folds its wings. It becomes still. And once again, the world begins to slow down. Tomorrow will bring another morning, another warming sun, another flight, another flower, another journey. But tonight, the butterfly rests. And in the quiet space between one day and the next, its tiny life becomes part of the larger rhythm of the natural world. A rhythm that has been repeating for millions of years. A rhythm of sunlight and shadow, growth and transformation, flight and stillness, beginning and continuation, and the gentle movement of wings through the air. The evening is returning now. The warmth of the afternoon has begun to disappear from the meadow, slowly and almost imperceptibly. The flowers that open beneath the morning sun are beginning to close. The shadows stretch farther across the grass. The air becomes cooler, and the butterflies that spent the day moving through the sunlight begin searching for places where they can remain undisturbed through the night. One by one, the wings become still. A butterfly settles beneath a broad leaf. Another clings to the underside of a stem. Another disappears into a cluster of grass. From a distance, the meadow seems almost empty. But it is not empty. It is simply quieter. And perhaps this is the perfect moment to look back at the extraordinary world we have been exploring. Because a butterfly is easy to underestimate. It is small. It is delicate. It may live for only a short time. Its wings can be damaged by a careless touch. Its body can be carried away by a strong wind. A cold morning can leave it motionless. A bird can catch it in an instant. And yet, inside this tiny creature is one of nature's most remarkable transformations. The butterfly begins as something completely different. It starts as an egg, a tiny structure placed carefully on a plant, sometimes so small that you could pass by without ever noticing it. Inside that egg, however, an entire organism is developing. Cells divide, tissues form, a tiny caterpillar takes shape, and eventually, the egg opens. The caterpillar emerges. It does not look beautiful in the way humans usually define beauty. It has no wings, no shimmering colors, no delicate patterns. Instead, it has a simple purpose: eat, grow, survive. It begins consuming the plant around it. Leaf after leaf, day after day, its body becomes larger. Its outer skin becomes too small. So it sheds. Then it grows again, and sheds again. The process repeats until the caterpillar reaches the point where its life must change. It stops eating. It searches for a suitable place. It attaches itself, and then it becomes still. The chrysalis hangs quietly. To an observer, it might look like nothing is happening, but inside, the old form is being reorganized. The future butterfly is taking shape. Wings develop. Adult structures emerge. The body changes. And eventually, the chrysalis opens. A butterfly emerges. At first, the wings are folded. They are soft. They cannot yet carry the insect. The butterfly waits. Fluid moves through the wing veins. The wings expand. They dry. They strengthen. And then, after everything is ready, the butterfly takes its first flight. It is difficult to imagine a more dramatic change happening inside such a small life. A creature that spent its childhood crawling across leaves suddenly enters the sky. The world becomes larger. The butterfly can cross flowers. It can travel between trees. It can search for mates. It can follow seasonal movements. It can migrate. It can become part of the movement of an entire ecosystem. And yet the adult butterfly remains fragile. It must continue balancing energy and danger. It must find food. It must stay warm. It must avoid predators. It must find a mate. And, for females, it must find the correct plants for the next generation. The life of a butterfly is therefore not simply a story of beauty. It is a story of constant decisions. Where should I land? Is this flower useful? Is this plant suitable? Is the temperature warm enough? Is that movement dangerous? Is this butterfly a potential mate? Is this location safe? The insect does not ask these questions in words. Its nervous system responds through instincts, sensory information, and learned associations. The world reaches the butterfly through light, scent, temperature, touch, and movement. And from those signals, behavior emerges. A flower becomes food. A leaf becomes a nursery. A muddy patch becomes a source of minerals. A warm rock becomes a heating platform. A tree becomes shelter. A hill becomes a meeting place. A particular direction becomes part of a migration. The landscape is transformed by perception. The same meadow that appears ordinary to us becomes a complex map of resources to a butterfly. And this is perhaps one of the most important lessons butterflies can teach us. The natural world is much richer than the portion we notice. We walk through a field and see grass. A butterfly sees potential food. We see a leaf. A caterpillar sees dinner. We see a fallen branch. An insect may see shelter. We see a patch of mud. A butterfly may see minerals. We see sunlight. A butterfly may see warmth. We see a flower. The butterfly sees nectar, color, scent, ultraviolet patterns, and perhaps a place where its legs can detect chemical information. One landscape, many worlds. And all of those worlds exist simultaneously. Butterflies remind us to slow down enough to notice. A butterfly may cross our path for only a few seconds, but those seconds can reveal an enormous amount of biology. The colors on its wings tell a story. The shape tells a story. The plants around it tell a story. The time of year tells a story. Its behavior tells a story. Even where it chooses to rest tells a story. Nothing is completely random. Every adaptation exists within a history. The history of natural selection. The history of changing environments. The history of predators and prey. The history of plants and insects evolving alongside one another. For tens of millions of years, butterfly lineages have been changing. Continents have moved. Mountains have risen. Forests have expanded and disappeared. Ice ages have transformed landscapes. Temperatures have shifted. Plants have evolved. Predators have evolved. Butterflies have responded. Some lineages survived. Others disappeared. New species emerged. And the butterflies we see today are the descendants of those ancient survivors. When a butterfly opens its wings tomorrow morning, it is continuing an evolutionary story that began long before humans existed. There is something humbling about that. A tiny insect can carry an ancient history. It does not know that history. It does not need to. Its genes carry the instructions. Its body carries the adaptations. Its instincts carry fragments of behaviors shaped by countless generations. The butterfly simply lives. And by living, it continues the story. This is also why individual butterflies matter less than the continuity of the species. One butterfly may live for only a short period, but if it reproduces, the story continues. Its eggs become caterpillars. Those caterpillars become chrysalises. The chrysalises become adults. Those adults reproduce. The cycle continues. This continuity is one of the most beautiful ideas in biology. Life does not need every individual to last forever. It only needs information to continue. Genes pass forward. Behaviors pass forward. Relationships between species continue. Plants continue flowering. Pollinators continue moving. Predators continue hunting. The ecosystem continues changing. And the butterfly becomes one small thread in the larger fabric. Perhaps the most famous example of this continuity is the monarch. Imagine a monarch beginning a journey across a continent. The distance is enormous compared with the size of its body. The butterfly follows seasonal signals. It responds to the position of the sun. It uses an internal clock. It responds to temperature. It interacts with wind. It moves through landscapes where food and shelter are available. And somehow, across generations, the migration continues. There is no road beneath its wings. No highway, no sign, no human-made direction. Just an ancient biological system interacting with the environment. The butterfly moves. The landscape passes beneath it. The seasons change, and the journey continues. This ability becomes even more remarkable when we consider how many obstacles exist along the way. Cities, roads, agricultural fields, storms, predators, cold weather, habitat loss. A butterfly is exposed to all of them, and yet migration persists where conditions allow. This is why protecting butterflies often means protecting landscapes rather than individual insects. A butterfly cannot survive simply because one small patch of habitat is protected. It needs connected resources: food, host plants, shelter, water, safe resting areas, places to reproduce, places to survive unfavorable seasons. The entire journey matters. And this applies to butterflies that do not migrate long distances as well. A local population still depends on its habitat. If the plants disappear, the butterflies may disappear. If the flowers disappear, adults may struggle to feed. If pesticides become widespread, insects can be harmed directly or indirectly. If climate changes the timing of plants and insects, their life cycles can become mismatched. A butterfly is therefore deeply connected to the health of its environment. This makes them useful indicators. When butterfly populations change, scientists can sometimes detect larger ecological shifts. A decline may suggest habitat loss. A change in seasonal timing may suggest climate effects. A shift in geographic range may indicate changing temperatures. An increase in one species may reflect changes in plant communities. The butterfly becomes a biological messenger, not because it consciously communicates with us, but because its life responds to environmental conditions. Its presence tells us that certain conditions exist. Its absence may tell us that something has changed. This is why long-term observation is so valuable. One butterfly tells us little. Thousands of observations across years tell us much more. Scientists can track populations. They can record flowering times. They can monitor migration. They can study host plants. They can examine genetics. They can compare historical specimens. Slowly, patterns emerge. Science often works this way. A single observation is a small piece. Many observations create a picture. Butterflies provide countless pieces. Every species has a story. Every habitat has a story. Every season adds another layer. And the picture is never completely finished. There are still species to discover, behaviors to understand, migration routes to study, chemical signals to identify, genetic relationships to investigate. Even familiar butterflies can reveal something new. The more closely we look, the more complexity appears. And perhaps that is why butterflies are so effective at inspiring curiosity. They are beautiful enough to attract our attention. Then science gives us reasons to keep looking. The wing is beautiful. Then we learn about microscopic scales. The color is beautiful. Then we discover structural coloration. The migration is beautiful. Then we discover biological clocks and navigation. The caterpillar is interesting. Then we discover metamorphosis. The flower visit looks simple. Then we discover pollination. The chrysalis looks still. Then we learn about massive internal reorganization. Every observation opens another door. And behind every door is another layer. Butterflies also show us that small does not mean simple. An insect can have specialized sensory systems. It can learn. It can navigate. It can communicate. It can recognize plants. It can defend itself. It can migrate. It can respond to environmental changes. All inside a body small enough to fit comfortably on a fingertip. The scale is astonishing. Human technology often requires enormous machines to accomplish complex tasks. Evolution can create extremely capable biological systems at microscopic scales. The butterfly is one example. Its antennae are chemical sensors. Its eyes are visual systems. Its wings are aerodynamic surfaces. Its scales are optical structures. Its muscles are flight engines. Its spiracles and tracheae form a respiratory network. Its nervous system processes information. Its reproductive system continues the lineage. Its genes guide development. Everything is integrated. Nothing exists completely alone. Even the wing depends on the thorax. The thorax depends on the nervous system. The nervous system depends on sensory organs. The entire body depends on energy from food. The food depends on plants. The plants depend on sunlight, water, soil, and pollination. And suddenly, the butterfly connects back to the entire planet. A tiny insect is connected to the sun. That may sound poetic, but it is biologically true. Plants capture energy from sunlight. Butterflies obtain energy by feeding on resources produced by plants. That energy powers flight. The butterfly moves. It pollinates. It reproduces. Its offspring become food for other organisms. Energy moves through the ecosystem. Sunlight becomes plant tissue. Plant tissue becomes insect tissue. Insect tissue becomes food for predators. The energy continues moving. A butterfly is therefore one temporary form of energy moving through an ecosystem. The individual disappears. The energy continues. The nutrients continue. The cycle continues. And perhaps this is why the natural world feels so interconnected when we slow down. Nothing exists completely alone. A butterfly depends on a flower. The flower depends on pollinators. The caterpillar depends on a plant. The bird depends on caterpillars. The plant depends on soil organisms. The soil depends on decomposition. The entire system is connected. Butterflies are visible enough that we can notice one thread. But when we follow that thread, it leads everywhere. Toward plants, toward birds, toward climate, toward evolution, toward genetics, toward ecosystems, toward the history of life, and eventually, back to the quiet meadow where our journey began. The sky is darker now. The last light is disappearing. The butterflies are hidden. Their wings are folded. The flowers are closed. The temperature continues to fall. Soon the meadow will belong to the night. But beneath the leaves, the butterfly remains. Still, quiet, safe, waiting for another sunrise. And perhaps this is the perfect place to pause. Because the butterfly does not spend its entire life flying. Much of its existence is waiting. Waiting inside an egg. Waiting as a developing larva. Waiting inside a chrysalis. Waiting for warmth. Waiting for a mate. Waiting for flowers. Waiting for favorable weather. Waiting for the right season. Waiting beneath a leaf at night. There is a quiet lesson in that rhythm. Not every moment needs to be active. Not every stage needs to be visible. Some of the most important transformations happen while nothing appears to be happening. The chrysalis is still, yet a butterfly is forming. The egg is still, yet a caterpillar is developing. The resting butterfly is still, yet its body is conserving energy for another day. Stillness is not always inactivity. Sometimes stillness is preparation. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is transformation. And perhaps, as you listen to this final part, you can allow yourself to become a little quieter too. There is nothing you need to solve, nothing you need to figure out. You can simply remain here for a while. Imagine the meadow beneath the moon. The grasses move gently. The leaves whisper in the breeze. A few stars appear between the clouds. Somewhere in the darkness, a butterfly rests. Its wings are closed. Its body is small. Its life is brief. But its story is enormous. Inside its genes are millions of years of evolutionary history. Inside its body are systems refined across countless generations. Its wings carry colors created through pigments and microscopic structures. Its eyes perceive a world beyond the range of human vision. Its antennae detect chemical information. Its legs can help identify plants. Its body responds to temperature. Its instincts guide movement. Its memory can influence behavior. Its migration can span enormous distances. Its life connects flowers, plants, predators, and people. And all of this exists inside something that can disappear into the darkness of a single leaf. That is the wonder of butterflies. They are not powerful because they are large. They are not impressive because they are strong. They are impressive because of how much complexity can exist within something so delicate. A butterfly does not need claws. It does not need teeth. It does not need enormous muscles. It survives through adaptation, through timing, through camouflage, through color, through movement, through chemical communication, through relationships with plants, through generations of evolutionary change. Its strength is not obvious. Its strength is hidden. And perhaps that makes its story even more beautiful. Think again of the first moment when a butterfly emerges from its chrysalis. Its wings are soft. It cannot fly. It simply waits. Then the wings expand. The colors become visible. The body dries. The insect climbs. It reaches the edge. And finally, it lets go. The air catches its wings. For the first time, the butterfly is no longer crawling. It is flying. There is no guarantee that the journey will be long. It may last days, weeks, months. Perhaps the butterfly will migrate. Perhaps it will remain close to where it emerged. Perhaps it will find a mate. Perhaps it will become food for a bird. Nature does not guarantee an outcome. It only provides possibilities. The butterfly enters the world and responds to what it finds. That is life. Not certainty, adaptation, response, continuation. And when one butterfly disappears, another is already beginning. An egg waits. A caterpillar grows. A chrysalis hangs. The cycle continues. This is why the butterfly is such a powerful symbol of transformation. Not because nature created it as a symbol. Humans gave it that meaning. But the underlying transformation is real. A creature changes its body almost completely. It moves from one ecological role to another. It changes from leaf eater to nectar feeder, from crawler to flyer, from hidden larva to visible adult, from ground to sky. And it does all of this according to an ancient biological program. The transformation is not a miracle in the supernatural sense. It is something equally fascinating. It is biology, and biology itself can be astonishing. The more we understand, the more beautiful the natural world becomes. Knowing how butterfly wings work does not make them less magical. It makes them more interesting. Knowing that blue can come from microscopic structures makes blue butterflies even more remarkable. Knowing how monarchs navigate makes migration even more extraordinary. Knowing how caterpillars transform makes the chrysalis even more fascinating. Science does not take wonder away. It gives wonder more layers. And that is what we have been exploring tonight. Layer after layer. From the tiny egg on a leaf to the butterfly crossing the sky. From microscopic scales to continental migrations. From chemical signals to colorful wings. From ancient evolution to the quiet creature resting beneath a leaf tonight. The story has been enormous. But the butterfly itself remains tiny. Perhaps that contrast is the most beautiful part. A small body can belong to a huge story. And the same is true for every living thing. A single flower belongs to an ecosystem. A single tree belongs to a forest. A single butterfly belongs to a lineage. A single night belongs to a season. A single moment belongs to a lifetime. Everything is part of something larger. So as the night grows deeper, imagine the butterfly remaining still. The moonlight touches the leaves. The air is cool. The meadow is quiet. There is no need for flight now. Tomorrow will come. When the sun rises, the temperature will slowly increase. The butterfly may open its wings. It may find a warm place. It may begin searching for nectar. Perhaps it will visit a flower. Perhaps another butterfly will cross its path. Perhaps it will continue a migration. Perhaps it will lay eggs that will begin the next generation. We cannot know exactly what tomorrow will bring, but that uncertainty is part of the natural world. The butterfly simply waits, and eventually, morning arrives. The horizon becomes pale. The darkness fades. The first sunlight reaches the grass, then the leaves, then the flowers, and finally, the butterfly. Its wings begin to warm. Slowly, they open. The colors return. The tiny body becomes active. And once again, the butterfly enters the air. Perhaps it rises above the meadow. Perhaps it disappears into the trees. Perhaps it crosses a garden. Perhaps it travels toward another distant landscape. For a moment, its wings catch the sunlight. A brief flash of color. Then it is gone, but it has left something behind. Perhaps pollen has moved from one flower to another. Perhaps an egg has been placed on a leaf. Perhaps its genes will continue through another generation. Perhaps its presence has allowed a person to stop and notice nature. And perhaps that person will plant flowers. Perhaps someone else will protect a meadow. Perhaps a child will become curious about insects. Perhaps a scientist will study butterfly migration. A tiny butterfly can influence human attention in unexpected ways. Beauty can lead to curiosity. Curiosity can lead to knowledge. Knowledge can lead to protection. And protection can help an ecosystem survive. That is another kind of connection. The butterfly connects not only species to one another. It can connect people to nature. A person notices wings. They wonder. They learn. They care. And suddenly, a tiny insect becomes a reason to look more closely at the world. So, when you see a butterfly in the future, perhaps you will pause for just a moment. You might notice its wing pattern. You might wonder what plant its caterpillars need. You might notice where it lands. You might notice whether it is basking. You might wonder whether it is migrating. You might simply enjoy watching it. You do not need to know its scientific name. You do not need to understand every behavior. Sometimes simply noticing is enough. Because attention is the beginning of appreciation. And appreciation is often the beginning of protection. The butterfly does not know any of this. It does not need to. It continues its small life. Flower to flower, leaf to leaf, generation to generation. The world changes around it. But the ancient cycle continues. Egg, caterpillar, chrysalis, butterfly, egg again. A circle of transformation. A quiet biological rhythm. And now, as our journey comes to its final moments, let the meadow become peaceful again. The sun is setting. The butterflies are settling. The flowers are closing. The wind is soft. The sky is becoming darker. One butterfly folds its wings beneath a leaf. Another disappears into the grass. Another rests on a branch. The entire landscape begins to breathe more slowly. There is nothing left to chase, nothing left to discover tonight. The butterfly has returned to stillness. Tomorrow, it may fly again, but for now it rests. And perhaps you can rest too. Think of those delicate wings, the tiny scales, the hidden colors, the microscopic structures, the ancient instincts, the remarkable migration. The transformation from caterpillar to chrysalis to butterfly. The flowers, the leaves, the sunlight, the rain, the wind, the seasons, all connected, all moving together, all part of one enormous living system. A system that existed before us. A system that will continue changing after us. And within that system, a butterfly lives its brief, beautiful life. It does not need to understand the whole world. It only needs to follow the signals that guide it. Warmth, light, scent, food, shelter, mate, season. And perhaps there is something comforting about that simplicity. The butterfly does not worry about tomorrow. It responds to today. It rests when it needs to rest. It flies when it is warm enough. It feeds when food is available. It shelters when the weather becomes dangerous. It follows its instincts. And when its life ends, the next generation begins. There is continuity without permanence. Change without chaos. Transformation without hurry. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly overnight in the larger sense. The process takes time. Growth comes first, then stillness, then transformation. Then flight. Nature rarely rushes. It follows its own timing. And perhaps tonight, that is the final thought worth carrying with you. You do not have to rush either. You can simply allow this moment to be what it is. The room is quiet. The night is outside. Your breathing can become slower. Your thoughts can become softer. And somewhere in your imagination, a butterfly is resting beneath a leaf. Its wings are closed. The meadow is dark. The moon is above it. And tomorrow, when the sun returns, those wings will open again. For now, though, everything is still. The butterfly rests. The flowers rest. The meadow rests. And the natural world continues its quiet work through the night. So let the final image remain simple. A butterfly beneath a leaf. A soft breeze moving through the grass. A dark blue sky above. The distant stars. The quiet rhythm of the night. No urgency. No noise. Just stillness. And the knowledge that beneath the silence, life is always continuing. Tiny eggs are developing. Caterpillars are growing. Chrysalises are transforming. Butterflies are waiting. Plants are preparing for morning. And the world is slowly turning toward another sunrise. When it comes, the first light will touch the meadow. The butterfly will warm. its wings will open, and once again, it will rise into the air. A small creature, a brief life, an ancient story, a pair of delicate wings carrying millions of years of evolution. And perhaps, as you drift towards sleep, that is where we can leave it. Not disappearing, not ending, simply resting until morning. Because the story of the butterfly never truly ends with one butterfly. It continues in the egg, in the caterpillar, in the chrysalis, in the next pair of wings, and in every quiet meadow where flowers open beneath the sun. So, wherever you are tonight, allow yourself to become still. Let the world outside grow distant. Let the thoughts of the day soften. Imagine those wings moving gently through warm summer air. Imagine a butterfly settling onto a flower. Imagine sunlight passing through translucent wings. Imagine the tiny scales reflecting colors. Imagine the quiet movement of grass. Imagine the warmth of the afternoon fading into evening. And finally, imagine the butterfly folding its wings and becoming still. Nothing more is required. The journey is complete for tonight. The meadow is quiet. The butterfly is resting. And you can rest too. Good night. Sleep peacefully. And when morning comes, perhaps you will look at the world a little differently. Perhaps you will notice the flowers, the leaves, the sunlight, and maybe, somewhere nearby, a butterfly will pass quietly through the air. A tiny reminder that even the smallest creatures can carry enormous stories. And that beneath the ordinary surface of the world, there is always something extraordinary waiting to be noticed. Good night, and welcome back whenever you are ready to fall asleep with science again.